Chapter 743. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. I'll provide you with some wonderful novels to read. After using spatial rend, Night Sorrow's figure flashed into it. At the same time, he waved his arm and closed the spatial tunnel. Then, he controlled his body to travel through the turbulence. 10 miles, 20 miles. When he was 20 miles away, Night Sorrow sensed that he was out of the turbulent space. He used spatial rend again and walked out of the spatial rift. Then, his figure flashed a few times and arrived at the edge of the realm sea. "Captain, what are you doing?" Liang Yu asked in astonishment when he saw Night Sorrow appear out of thin air. He didn't understand. "Let's talk about this later. From today onwards, without my orders, no one is allowed to take half a step into the realm sea. Xueling, Ho Jian, when you see the team return, stay in the camp and cultivate." Night Sorrow gave the order to Liang Yu. It wasn't that Night Sorrow was nervous. He knew that this black loach was too terrifying. He knew how powerful his spear attack was. Even so, he couldn't kill it. Anyone else who encountered it would be dead. Night Sorrow went to Wu Lingfei's tent. "Aunt Fei, what kind of creature is this?" Night Sorrow took out the corpse of the black creature he killed with soul-extinguishing slash. "It's in the turbulent space of the realm sea. There are too many of them. If I didn't run quickly, I would have been surrounded. This creature isn't afraid of my spear attack." Night Sorrow said. "This is serious. Let's go find Long Xianxing," Wu Lingfei said. Then Wu Lingfei brought Night Sorrow to the eastern Xian region's camp. Looking at the black creature's corpse, Long Xianxing nodded. "It's a spatial soul-eater beast. Now, our people can no longer enter the turbulent space of the realm sea to cultivate. It's very difficult to kill them." Following Long Xuanxing's explanation, Night Sorrow learned what a spatial soul-eater beast was. The spatial soul-devouring beast was a creature that lived in the spatial turbulence. Their defense was extremely strong, and it was difficult for swords to injure them. Their speed was extremely fast, and they could almost ignore the defense of chi shields. They were good at shuttling through the spatial turbulence, so breaking through a cultivator's chi shield was not difficult. The spatial soul-eater beast loved to devour the soul energy of creatures and was most afraid of soul energy attacks. This was also the reason why Night Sorrow could kill it, but it was very difficult for others to do so. This should be the space soul-devouring beast that was suppressed in the space below the Clear Sky City. The Clear Sky City has been rising, so the space soul-devouring beast below has appeared. This has increased the difficulty of entering the Clear Sky City. Long Xianxing said. "That's right. Even venerables can't face the encirclement of the soul-eater beasts," Wu Lingfei said. "Does that mean that no one below the saint stage can get close to Haotian City?" Night Sorrow asked in surprise. "That's not it. The space soul-eater beast likes to live in the turbulent space. Once the energy around Haotian City dissipates, they will naturally leave," Long Xianxing said. "That's good." Night Sorrow breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want to lose the opportunity to explore the Clear Sky City. "Hurry up and get on J.E. Don't go to the domain C to cultivate for the time being. Go back. Do what you need to do. When the Clear Sky City appears, I will send someone to inform you." Long Xianxing looked at Night Sorrow and said. "All right, then I will take them back first." Night Sorrow nodded. Then Night Sorrow and Wu Lingfei left the camp of the Eastern Profound Domain. Looking at Night Sorrow, Wu Lingfei said, "Then I will send you back to the city in the sky. You also need to rest. Auntie Fei, you do what you need to do. I will be fine. She will not touch me again. I don't care about the others. I am not afraid of anyone who wants to fight." Night Sorrow said. "But Auntie Fei is still worried." Wu Lingfei said. Auntie Fei, I enjoy your protection, but I am not young anymore. You can rest assured. Night Sorrow said. That's fine. She won't touch you, but you still have to be careful. There are still remnants of the Windy dynasty. You're famous now, and all the cultivators of the 9 realms know about you. They all know that if they defeat or kill you, they'll get fate. That's the source of all the trouble, said Wu Lingfei to Yishang. I will be careful. Night Sorrow said with a smile. You also have to be careful of the Jiyu family. We have received news that Jiyu Fenglan has entered the Saint Realm. He is a space saint and has strong combat power. You have a grudge against the Jiyu family. They will not let you grow. This bastard is really malicious. Night Sorrow cursed. The Jiyu family is an old family. They still have their own luck and won't fall so easily. Also, the 7-star saint has also appeared. He is not on the same side as us. The 7-star dynasty will still make a move. Wu Lingfei told him about the recent developments of the 9 regions. The world is really chaotic. Night Sorrow rubbed his hair and said. Yes, the 9 regions world is very complicated. Some hidden cultivators will come out because this is a time of chaos and great battles, said Wu Lingfei. There are many saints. Didn't they say that without source stones and saint crystals, it is impossible to comprehend the power of laws? Night Sorrow asked in puzzlement. Think about it. Didn't the Sea Heart Island in the Northern Sea region display the power of laws? When we went to the Death Domain, did the Heaven Vault display the power of laws? Some peak paragons would have a chance to enter the Saint Realm if they found such a place. This is also the reason why Yun Tianlong wanted to seize the Sea Heart Island. That is a place that can create saints. Wu Lingfei explained to Night Sorrow. Wu Lingfei was usually a person of few words. But when she was with Night Sorrow, she was very patient. As long as there was something Night Sorrow didn't understand, she would explain it in detail. I understand. With the appearance of Clear Sky City, some hidden experts will jump out. Night Sorrow said. Yes. Also, ordinary powers wouldn't be able to nurture a peak paragon. In other words, the saints who can cultivate in special environments are all the ancestors of the various powers. Among them, there might be people from the various dynasties who are a match for the Night Moon dynasty. Wu Lingfei explained to Night Sorrow. I understand. I will be careful. Aunt Fei, thank you. Night Sorrow bowed to Wu Lingfei. There's no need to be so polite with Aunt Fei. If there's anything, just tell Aunt Fei. You are the closest person to Aunt Fei in this world. Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. After that, Night Sorrow left. He really wanted to tell Wu Lingfei about Yin Shi, but he was worried that Wu Lingfei wouldn't forgive him. Because this matter was a little too shameless and went overboard. After walking for a distance, Night Sorrow stopped. Night Sorrow, don't tell me you intend to tell Wu Lingfei about this matter. Yin Shi spoke. Chapter 744. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with interesting novels to read. Yin Shi was a smart person. She noticed Night Sorrow's hesitation and knew what Night Sorrow was thinking. Night Sorrow went to the forest beside the campsite and entered the spacetime pagoda in a flash. Yin Shi, I didn't lie to anyone and I don't want to hide anything from my Auntie Fei. She is very worried that you will do something bad to me. However, I didn't say anything even though I knew you wouldn't do anything to me. This makes me feel very guilty. Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi and said. I beg you. Can you leave me some dignity? Yin Shi's eyes were pleading. Yin Shi, the people around me will know about this sooner or later. Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi and said. Then let's take it one step at a time. She also understood this logic. All right. Work hard on your cultivation. Night Sorrow thought for a while and nodded. She was very honest now. He didn't want to embarrass she too much and cause her to have a rebellious mentality. After that, Night Sorrow came out of the forest and led the members of the god-slaying team onto the airship and rushed towards How High City. Leader, I don't understand. Why didn't you let us enter the spatial turbulence to cultivate? Yun Huang asked. There are great terrors there. I almost got into trouble. Night Sorrow then told them about his encounter with the spatial soul eater beasts. Leader's spear attack is ineffective. Ling Long looked at Night Sorrow in surprise. It's not that it's ineffective. It's just that it can push them back and send them flying. It can't kill them. They are only afraid of soul attacks. If you are surrounded by those soul eater beasts, you should know the result. Night Sorrow said. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, the others fell into deep thought. If even Night Sorrow couldn't withstand it, they would die if they went in. Everyone has gained a lot during this period of time. Even if we can't go in again, we should be content. Night Sorrow said. The others nodded. During this period of time, everyone had made great progress. Not only had their cultivation improved a lot, but it was also very solid. Soon, the group returned to Sky City. When the girls saw Papa Goo, they were stunned. Night Sorrow was also shocked. He had forgotten to discuss with Papa Goo that he should hide the fact that he had been kidnapped. Hee, what are you all standing there for? Take a seat. Old Man Goo said. Night Sorrow shook his head at Daddy Goo. He hoped that Daddy Goo would understand what he meant. Old Mr. Goo smiled and instantly understood what Night Sorrow meant. During the chat, he had said that he had come because he missed everyone. Night Sorrow let out a sigh of relief. He really didn't want the girls to worry. If Sikong Chiyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi knew about it, they would be very worried. Yang Lei was about to curse again. Dinner was a family banquet. Night Sorrow called for Tianyu, who had transformed into a human form. Everyone ate together and drank some wine. Then, Night Sorrow said that he would bring Papa Goo around Sky City and left the mansion alone with Papa Goo. Thank you, Papa, for hiding it from me. Night Sorrow said after leaving the mansion. You were also afraid that they would be worried. What you did was right. When something happens, men have to shoulder it. But don't tire yourself too much. You will be husband and wife in the future. There's nothing that can't be said. Papa Goo said. Then, Night Sorrow and Yiling Lan also said that they had to hide this matter. Then, they accompanied Papa Goo around Sky City before returning to the mansion. Night Sorrow gave Papa Goo a few bottles of top-grade low-grade elixirs. Papa Goo also returned to the attic that the servants had arranged for him. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow went to the lakeside. At this moment, Tianyu, who had drunk some wine, was lying on the ground and cultivating. He could transform into a human, but his cultivation speed was very fast. Night Sorrow took out his extra storage ring and handed it to Tianyu, who was standing beside him in human form. Then, he took out the dragon spirit pill and told Tianyu about the dragon spirit pill. Then, he took out a bottle of life spirit liquid and origin spirit liquid and explained how to use it. Thank you, 13th brother. Tianyu nodded at Night Sorrow. You have the spatial attribute. I have a spatial crystal here. Take it and cultivate. Night Sorrow took out 2 spatial crystals. I don't need this. My spatial attribute can be strengthened and improved. 13th brother, you don't have to worry about me. Tianyu said. Night Sorrow nodded and let Tianyu cultivate. He went to the wooden boat and brewed a pot of tea. After drinking a pot of tea, he returned to the mansion. You're back. Did you feel more relaxed after walking around? Yang Lei asked Night Sorrow. Yes, much more relaxed. Where's sixth senior sister? Night Sorrow asked when he didn't see Aoi. Unspecified currency on the latest chapter Y section. Sixth senior sister is cultivating very hard. She went back the moment you and old man Gu went out. She's probably cultivating. Yang Lei said. Sigh. This is because of me. Night Sorrow sighed. Aoi wasn't like this in the past. 13th brother, people have to change. There's nothing wrong with changing your lifestyle. Not to mention other things, a higher cultivation level means a longer lifespan, Yang Lei said. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that cultivators were fighting against the heavens. There was nothing wrong with cultivating hard. After drinking a pot of tea, Night Sorrow smiled. Are we going to rest too? Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu ignored Night Sorrow and walked to the bedroom hand in hand. Night Sorrow followed them in. They hadn't been together for a long time. It was inevitable that there would be a fire burning. Chuyu, do you feel it? 13th brother has become much more violent. He's not as gentle as before, Yang Lei said as she leaned on the bed. That's right. I can't take it anymore. He almost broke my leg, Sikong Chuyu said with a red face. Night Sorrow smiled embarrassedly. He had been very repressed recently. When he was with Yin Shi, he didn't restrain himself, so he was used to it. Then the three of them chatted for a while and sat down to cultivate. Yi Shang was also at the stage of stabilizing his cultivation. Not only his vital energy, but his cultivation of the myriad Tao tome had also reached the peak of the Tao querying realm after this period of cultivation. He was also in a stable state. Once he had accumulated enough, Yi Shang would break through to the venerable realm, which was the myriad Tao tome's spirit refinement realm. After cultivating for a night, Night Sorrow woke up early to cultivate his spear art and intent realm. After breakfast, the three of them went to the martial arts arena. The main thing was to keep pace with the group. Night Sorrow went to the lake and cultivated his spear art. He improved his compatibility with the space splitter spear and his true chi control. As for the myriad Tao tome's advancement, Night Sorrow wasn't in a hurry. He just wanted to let nature take its course. After cultivating his spear art for a while, Night Sorrow started to cultivate the space splitter. When he encountered the space-devouring beast in the realm sea, Night Sorrow used the space splitter in an emergency. Now, he was going to officially succeed in cultivating the space splitter. Chapter 745. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Night Sorrow's 5 bloodline energy points were already saturated with spatial energy. Now, he was charging towards the 6th bloodline energy point. In other words, the amount of bloodline energy points he had was the same as some of Night Moon's emperors. As Night Sorrow used the space crack, a black crack appeared in the space in front of him. Then, Night Sorrow used the honorable realm and entered the space turbulence with a wave of his left hand. In the space that was torn apart, the space turbulence was very violent. It was similar to the place where Night Sorrow encountered the golden-furred beast's corpse. He could only control his protective shield and quickly dodge forward. At the same time, he released his soul power to investigate. As soon as his soul power erupted, Night Sorrow realized that he could still sense the situation outside. In other words, his soul power could penetrate the space barrier and know the situation outside. After moving forward for dozens of miles, Night Sorrow reached his limit. The violent energy here consumed a lot of his true chi and bloodline energy points. Then, Night Sorrow used the space crack again and came out of the space. Exhaling, Night Sorrow flew back to the wooden boat and entered the space-time pagoda. Seeing Night Sorrow come in, Yin Shi, who was meditating, stood up. Night Sorrow glanced at Yin-Shi and nodded. Then, he took out the spiritual jade stone stool and began to meditate to recover. Entering the space turbulence this time had consumed a lot of his energy. After recovering for an hour, Yishang recovered to his peak state and stood up. What happened? Why did you consume so much energy? Yin-Shi asked, puzzled. Cultivating the space crack. Yin-Shi spoke nicely. Night Sorrow did not refuse to answer. Night Sorrow, I still want to improve my body's strength and vitality. Then, I won't have to worry about using the wind elemental escape technique in the future. Yin-Shi said. Whenever a woman talks, I know it's nothing good. Here, take a few more black tortoise spirit crystals. Night Sorrow took out 3 black tortoise spirit crystals and threw them to Yin-Shi. Yin-Shi nodded and took it. In fact, Night Sorrow's Yang Qi was more effective than the black tortoise spirit crystal to her, but she couldn't say, Night Sorrow, come and press me down. Although she was a little unscrupulous, a woman's face was still important. Next, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate the spatial crack. As he traveled through the turbulent space, he also cultivated his spear arts. He fought against the violent energy in the turbulent space to increase his speed. As he cultivated, Night Sorrow was able to travel further and further through the turbulent streams of space. However, as he cultivated, Night Sorrow felt exhausted again and again. Yin-Shi, who was cultivating in the space-time pagoda, was convinced when she saw Night Sorrow recover and go out again and again. She had never seen anyone so hard-working during cultivation. Night Sorrow could also recover with the space-time pagoda in his body. However, it wasn't as fast as Night Sorrow's recovery in the space-time pagoda. The difference between recovery and natural cultivation was quite big. After cultivating until evening, Yishang returned to his mansion. Dinner was already prepared in the mansion. Night Sorrow, you have to spend more time with her. Don't just cultivate all day. Papa Gu complained to Night Sorrow. Hee hee. I'll pay attention. Night Sorrow laughed. Then, Night Sorrow inquired about the situation of the girls. Now, we won't be cultivating in combat anymore. Everyone's combat training is more or less the same. In addition, everyone's cultivation base has stabilized enough. So, each of you should cultivate your own foundation. Today, we will be cultivating in the mansion, Qing Ji said. I see. But don't work too hard, Night Sorrow said as he ate. After eating, Papa Gu returned to his room. He was also working hard on his cultivation. Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu smiled at Night Sorrow and Aoi before leaving. 6th senior sister, do you like the life here? Why don't I take some time to accompany you to the Medicine Valley? Night Sorrow looked at Aoi and asked. That's good. I just feel a little guilty toward my disciples. As a master, I haven't done my duty, Aoi said. How about this? We'll go back with 9th senior sister another day and bring all your disciples here. Fortunately, there aren't many of them. We can still set up a martial arts arena here, Night Sorrow said. 13th junior brother, your intentions are good. But they are disciples of the Medicine Valley. It's normal for them to live in the Medicine Valley. They shouldn't come to the city in the sky, Aoi shook her head and said. She didn't want to cause trouble for Night Sorrow. Then I'll listen to 6th senior sister's decision. However, our Taishan Peak doesn't lack resources. We can go back and take a look when we have time, Night Sorrow said. He knew that Aoi still couldn't bear to part with them. That's true. Our Taishan Peak has a Night Sorrow. Aoi looked at Night Sorrow and said with pride in her eyes. Don't say that, 6th senior sister. I'm just doing what I should do, Night Sorrow said. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow sent Aoi to the attic where she lived. When they arrived at the door of the attic, Night Sorrow didn't know if he should go in or not. After hesitating for a moment, Night Sorrow said, "Sixth senior sister, can I go in?" "Yes. If you don't go in, I don't know what your ninth senior sister will say to you tomorrow morning," Aoi's said in a low voice. After entering Aoi's room and sitting down, Night Sorrow didn't know what to say. He was a little nervous. 13th junior brother, why are you nervous? You're someone who looks down on everyone, Aoi said with a smile. She could see that Night Sorrow was nervous. I'm just a little nervous, Night Sorrow said embarrassedly. 13, we're engaged. I won't beat around the bush. Do you like sixth senior sister or do you only respect her? Aoi pulled a chair and sat beside Night Sorrow. Yishang turned his head to look at Qingji. In my heart, sixth senior sister will always be respected. All this time, even if I liked her, I didn't dare to express it because I was afraid that I would disrespect that respect, Yishang said. So you like sixth senior sister, right? Aoi asked with a red face. Yes, I like her a lot, Night Sorrow nodded. Carrot 9 first senior sister, that's great. Shall we decorate the room tonight? Aoi stood up and said. Then, Aoi lit 2 red candles and took out a red ribbon from her storage ring. She pulled it a few times in the room and made a red ribbon flower in the middle. Sixth senior sister, it's been hard on you. Seeing that Qingji was done with the red silk, Yishang held her hand and said. Don't worry about it. Actually, sixth senior sister likes 13th junior brother a lot. When 13th junior brother was young, we were siblings. Now that 13th junior brother has grown up, things have changed, Aoi said in a low voice. Her face was blushing under the candlelight. Sixth senior sister, you're so beautiful today, Night Sorrow said as he held Aoi's hand. Chapter 746. Genius 1 second remember love go/little? I'll provide you with interesting novels to read. Night Sorrow would be a fool if he didn't understand. He gently embraced Aoi and kissed her. Aoi hugged Night Sorrow's waist and kissed Aoi's red lips. She responded to Night Sorrow. After a while, Night Sorrow let go of Aoi. He was a little absent-minded as he looked at Aoi under the candlelight. He had never looked at her so seriously before. Aoi was very beautiful, gentle and elegant. She was the same type as Yang Lei and Sikong Chiyu. Stop looking. Let's rest. Aoi was embarrassed by Night Sorrow's gaze. After that, the two of them sat by the bed hand in hand. Qingji looked at Yishang and got up to take off Yishang's outer robe and hang it properly. She took off her own outer skirt and pulled down the curtains by the bed. Night Sorrow bent down and carried Aoi to the inside of the bed. He lay down on the outside and hugged Aoi, who had taken off her skirt and was only wearing her tights. Aoi leaned her head against Night Sorrow's chest. Although she was older than Night Sorrow, she had never experienced something like this before. She was nervous. Sixth senior sister, can you do it? Night Sorrow whispered into Aoi's ear. Yes, I have to do it even if I can't. We don't have to be together sooner or later, Aoi said. Night Sorrow sat up and gently took off Aoi's tights. Aoi pulled the blanket and covered herself with it. Night Sorrow then took off his robe and got under the blanket. Night Sorrow felt different when he hugged Aoi again. Feeling Aoi's smooth body, Night Sorrow had a reaction. Night Sorrow flipped over and lay on top of Aoi. Aoi murmured in Night Sorrow's ear, "Take pity on sixth senior sister." Night Sorrow nodded and gently separated from Aoi's beautiful legs. Red candle tears, brocade tent, eroding tenderness. After an hour, Night Sorrow stopped. Although he wasn't done, Aoi couldn't take it. 13th junior brother, I'm sorry. Aoi said softly as she rested her head on Night Sorrow's arm. She had seen the harmony technique and knew what it was like between a man and a woman. Of course, she knew that Night Sorrow was taking pity on her. It's nothing. I'm very happy because I truly have sixth senior sister. Night Sorrow said as he caressed Aoi's hair. Yes, I'm very happy too. Let's rest then. I'm a bit tired. Aoi said. Okay. Night Sorrow hugged Aoi and rested. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow and Aoi woke up early. After taking a shower, the two went to the courtyard. Night Sorrow practiced his spear art while Aoi watched from the side. Sixth senior sister, hee. Are you in pain and happiness? Yang Lei came to Aoi's side. You're not saying anything. Aoi blushed and glared at Yang Lei. Then I won't say anything. I won't say anything. Yang Lei smiled and shook her head. After eating breakfast, the three women cultivated in the mansion. Night Sorrow went to the lakeside and chatted with Tianyu for a while before starting to cultivate the spatial split. To Night Sorrow, cultivating the spatial split was no different from cultivating in the chaotic streams of space in the realm sea. It strengthened him in all aspects. After exhausting himself, Night Sorrow returned to the space-time treasure pagoda and began to recover. On his third recovery, Night Sorrow nodded to Yin Shi and said, "Make a pot of hot tea." Don't you feel tired? Yin Shi asked while making tea. It's very tiring, but it's worth it. I want it. Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi and said. Last night, when he was with Aoi, he wanted to take care of her, so he held back his fire. Looking at Yin Shi's seductive body and wild silver hair, Night Sorrow had a reaction. Yin Shi looked at Night Sorrow, then turned her head and untied her skirt. Night Sorrow pulled Yin Shi and began to whip her wildly. This lasted for 2 hours. After finishing, Yin Shi's body went limp on the praying mat. You're too cruel. Are you also like this when you're with your woman? No. Night Sorrow sat down and began to recover. He didn't want to talk about this topic anymore because he felt it was unfair to Yin Shi. Yin Shi didn't say anything. She sat up and began to cultivate. Night Sorrow gave her the essence that she needed the most. After recovering, Night Sorrow came out of the space-time pagoda and continued to cultivate the space-time crack. He wanted to increase the distance he could travel in space. This way, even if there were opponents he couldn't defeat, he would have a way to protect himself. Entering the space-time pagoda again, Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi who had finished cultivating and was full of energy again. He said, "Your soul power has condensed into a soul pearl. How far can you detect when you're at your peak?" If I detect carefully, I can detect the energy fluctuations within a radius of 50 miles. I can't detect any further than that, Yin Shi said. Night Sorrow nodded. He could only travel within a radius of 50 miles. This meant that if the opponent wasn't a high-level saint, it would be difficult for the opponent to catch him when he used the space-time crack. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow felt that he had to continue to improve in this aspect. When it was evening, Night Sorrow realized that his cultivation of the myriad Tao Tome had reached a bottleneck. This meant that if he didn't level up and advance to the God refinement realm, he wouldn't be able to level it up anymore. Night Sorrow planned to make a stable breakthrough. During this period of time, he didn't use any resources to cultivate the myriad Tao Tome. He cultivated it naturally, so there wouldn't be any drawbacks of an unstable foundation. Looking at the sky, Night Sorrow returned to the mansion. When Night Sorrow returned to the mansion, the servants had already prepared dinner. Night Sorrow pondered as he ate. When he advanced to the honorable realm last time, there were 3 lightning tribulations. He didn't know if there would be lightning tribulations when he advanced to the myriad Tao Tome. However, Night Sorrow felt that his genuine chi cultivation was much stronger than before. He also had a high-grade spiritual weapon. Even if there were lightning tribulations, he wouldn't be as miserable as before. What are you thinking about? Why are you spacing out when you're eating? Yang Lei looked at Night Sorrow and said, My physique cultivation is about to advance. I don't know if there will be lightning tribulations. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Advance in physique cultivation. What level is it? Sikong Chiyu looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Spirit refinement realm. It's equivalent to the honorable realm of genuine qi cultivation. Night Sorrow said. You can cultivate your body to the 6th level. You're ruthless. Last time, you didn't expect lightning tribulations. This time, you have to be more prepared. Yang Lei said. I understand. I'll be careful. Night Sorrow nodded. He had been thinking about this. He had to be prepared. Last time, because he wasn't prepared, something big had almost happened. Equals latest plus fastest fastest. After cultivating for another night, Night Sorrow decided to advance. Because the myriad Tao Tomes cultivation was already very smooth, there was no point in settling down. In addition, he was looking forward to what kind of increase in combat power would be after he entered the spirit refinement realm. This time, Night Sorrow didn't enter the secret cultivation room. Instead, he went directly to the lake. The other women also came along, they were all worried. Chapter 747. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by Shao. We will provide you with interesting novels to read. The girls nodded. They understood that if there was a lightning tribulation, they wouldn't be able to help. The lightning tribulation was a trial and test from the heavens. It was targeted at the tribulation taker. If others dared to intervene, they would be attacked by the lightning tribulation and wouldn't be able to help the tribulation taker. They followed him to guard Night Sorrow so that he wouldn't be disturbed by Night Sorrow. Yishang took out the spirit jade stool, sat on it, and began to cultivate. Night Sorrow first stabilized his emotions. Then, he used all his strength to circulate the myriad Tao Tomes energy. Night Sorrow wanted to gather all the energy of the myriad Tao Tome together. There wouldn't be any gaps or barriers. In other words, there wouldn't be any gaps between the energy of the flesh and the energy of the bones. This meant that the blood vessels and fascia in the body would be turned into energy. This way, the energy of the myriad Tao Tome would explode faster and faster. Love go little say W. Chu Night Sorrow didn't need to force himself to break through to the Tao querying realm with the myriad Tao Tome. He just needed to cultivate diligently. The cultivation of the myriad Tao Tome would naturally strengthen his body and level up. As the energy of Night Sorrow's myriad Tao Tome circulated quickly, Night Sorrow's body slowly changed. The essence chi above his head also slowly rose. When his body reaches the supremacy realm, 13 can fight against supremacies without using his true chi, Yang Lei said. He put in a lot more effort than others to cultivate his body. Sikong Chiyu exhaled and said. As time passed, Night Sorrow's aura became stronger and stronger. The process of leveling up was slowly advancing. Tianyu stopped cultivating and came to the girl's side. The only one who is correct, M version K. The others are all depirated versions. Yang Lei then explained the situation to Tianyu. She was worried that Tianyu didn't understand the situation and would cause trouble. Time slipped away bit by bit. Night Sorrow was like an old monk in meditation. Baidu search AI go female sign shao say www.aichuxs. Coma day passed and Night Sorrow's myriad Tao Tome was still in the state of strengthening his body. Will it be okay to break through at night? Yang Lei was a little worried. No problem. I wonder if I can complete the breakthrough tonight. Sikong Chuyu said. Sikong Chuyu was right. After one night, Night Sorrow still did not complete his breakthrough. Now, he was cultivating naturally, allowing the cultivation of the myriad Tao treasured tome to strengthen his body and naturally break through. On the afternoon of the second day, the energy of the myriad Tao tome in Night Sorrow's body had completely merged into one. It was no longer separated by the energy in his flesh, bones, and organs. It was as if Night Sorrow's body was a single vessel that contained the energy of the myriad Tao tome. Baidu search AI Go female sign Xiao say www.aichuxs. Sim essence chi smoke signal soared into the sky. The moment Night Sorrow completed his breakthrough, the essence chi smoke signal above Night Sorrow's head soared into the sky and reached a height of more than 10 zhang. At this moment, rolling dark clouds appeared in the sky. Lightning tribulation. Everyone knew that the lightning tribulation was coming. Night Sorrow, who was meditating, also knew. He was now trying his best to stabilize his cultivation. Next, he was going to receive the baptism of the lightning tribulation. When the lightning tribulation clouds rolled to the extreme, Night Sorrow stood up and put away the spiritual jade block. He held the reincarnation spear in his hand and looked at the rolling lightning tribulation clouds in the sky. At this moment, the members of the God-slaying team arrived. They were all attracted by the lightning tribulation clouds. "Captain, what's going on?" Ling Long asked, puzzled. "The lightning tribulation of advancement," Yang Lei said. "Captain is a second-level martial saint. Why is there a lightning tribulation?" Yun Huang couldn't understand. They hadn't encountered a lightning tribulation when they entered the martial saint realm. However, Night Sorrow had encountered 3 lightning tribulations when he entered the martial saint realm. Now, the lightning tribulation had appeared again. Night Sorrow doesn't just cultivate his vital energy. He also cultivates his body. Now that his body cultivation is successful, the Heavenly Tao's test is coming again. This time, with the high-grade spirit artifact reincarnation spear in his hand, Night Sorrow was full of confidence. He wasn't afraid of fighting. Following an explosion, the lightning tribulation clouds parted. A black-purple thunderbolt struck down at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow stomped his feet and soared into the sky. At the same time, he executed the 7-star brilliant moon spear and attacked the lightning tribulation. After the attack, Night Sorrow's body retreated with an afterimage. At the same time, the reincarnation spear continued to attack. After cultivating in the realm C spatial turbulence and tearing space, Night Sorrow's movement technique was extremely fast. Of course, no matter how fast Night Sorrow was, he couldn't be faster than the thunderbolt. However, Night Sorrow had the energy from the reincarnation spear to stop the thunderbolt from advancing. Thus, he was able to keep up with the thunderbolt's speed. Night Sorrow attacked while retreating. When the 11th attack was launched, the thunderbolt was dispersed by Night Sorrow. His body flashed and returned to his original position. Night Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and looked up at the sky again. The lightning tribulation cloud still hadn't dispersed, but he wasn't afraid at all. This spirit, this boldness. Apart from our captain, no one else is like this. Nan Liuel looked at Night Sorrow's figure with shock in her eyes. When she first heard of Night Sorrow's name, Nan Liuel didn't pay much attention to it. At that time, Night Sorrow's cultivation level wasn't enough to attract her attention. But now, Night Sorrow had already faced 2 lightning tribulations. His combat strength and cultivation level were far from what she could compare to. Then, the second lightning tribulation came. Night Sorrow executed 2 spatial splits to block the thunderbolt's attack. At this time, Night Sorrow's spatial splits were real spatial splits. The 2 black spatial splits consumed half of the thunderbolt's energy. Then, Night Sorrow used a few more spear moves to consume the thunderbolt's energy. The lightning tribulation might be a disaster for others, but it's nothing for the captain. Yun Huang sighed with emotion. When the third lightning tribulation came, Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear focused on the myriad Tao treasured tome's energy and started to clash with the lightning tribulation. Night Sorrow didn't know how many lightning tribulations there would be. Thus, he was very cautious. He didn't use any energy to resist. Because the myriad Tao treasured tome's cultivation level wasn't as high as his quintessential energy cultivation level, Night Sorrow executed 13 spear moves and blocked the third lightning tribulation. At this time, the thunderclouds rolled and dispersed. The sky became cloudless once again. The thunderclouds disappeared, leaving behind a multicolored glow. Night Sorrow roared towards the sky. He sat down and cultivated. His cultivation level of the myriad Tao treasured tome was much more stable than his. The lightning tribulation is very fierce, but our 13th prince is even more ferocious. Seeing that Night Sorrow was fine and had started to stabilize his cultivation, Yang Lei waved her arm. The multicolored glow in the sky enveloped Night Sorrow's body. Following the circulation of energy in Night Sorrow's body, the multicolored glow entered Night Sorrow's body. While meditating, Night Sorrow started to cultivate according to the myriad Tao treasured tome's spirit refinement realm cultivation technique. The cultivation of the myriad Tao treasured tome also underwent a huge change. Naturally, after absorbing the energy, a portion of it was converted into a special energy that entered the spirit sea. Then, the soul energy in the spirit sea entered the body. This was the realm of using one's body to refine one's spirit and using one's spirit to nourish one's body. This realm mainly cultivated one's soul and at the same time, strengthened one's cultivation. While Night Sorrow was stabilizing his cultivation, he also used his quintessential energy and the energy of the myriad Tao treasured tome to envelop the multicolored glow. He knew that this was a good thing and he definitely couldn't waste it. Chapter 748. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. As Yi Shang cultivated, the soul power he left in the silver dusk spirit sea naturally changed. The most obvious change was that it had a 5-colored glow. She didn't quite understand, but she knew that Yi Shang must have encountered some special opportunity. She had never heard of such a situation before, for his soul power to carry the 5-colored glow. While Night Sorrow was cultivating, the others left. Night Sorrow's strength had greatly increased, which gave them the motivation to move forward. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi were very happy to see Night Sorrow successfully passing the lightning tribulation. They went to the wooden boat to make tea. In the evening, Night Sorrow stopped cultivating. The cultivation of the myriad Tao treasured tome had also been completely stabilized. After tidying up his robe, Night Sorrow went to the wooden boat. 13. Congratulations. Aoi poured a cup of tea for Night Sorrow and said, "Yes, thank you, 6th senior sister. My cultivation level is not a problem, so it is not difficult for me to break through. I have a high-grade spiritual weapon, so I am not afraid." Night Sorrow said with a smile. Night Sorrow, when you encountered the lightning tribulation last time, you broke a pair of claws. Think of a way to get another pair in the future. Sikong Chuyu said. I might have needed it in the past, but not now. After I infuse energy into my hands, they are not inferior to a low-grade spiritual weapon. Night Sorrow looked at his hands and said, "You've cultivated your body to the point where your spiritual essence fumes soar into the clouds. Currently, there is no one like that. Even the elemental body cannot be compared to yours," said Yang Lei, looking at Yi Shang's head. "I still have a lot of desolate stones. I didn't refine them earlier because my body is on the verge of leveling up. If I want stability, I won't be able to level up quickly, so I didn't refine them." "I can do it later," said Night Sorrow. "The last time you refined the desolate stone, you went into seclusion for more than a month. Are you going to do it again?" Yang Lei said gloomily. I won't. This time, I'll refine a little less each time. I'll come out more often to accompany you guys, Night Sorrow said with a smile. I know you're here to improve your cultivation. It's business, but I'm a little reluctant to part with you. I'm not used to not seeing you for so long, Yang Lei said in a low voice. I understand. What's more? Last time, I brought back some elixirs from Medicine Valley, but I don't know how Master arranged them. Here are some more. You can take them back and give them to your disciples. Take it as a gift from me as your martial uncle. Night Sorrow took out some more elixirs. Is that okay? You have so many senior brothers. You can give them to our disciples. Aoi was a little hesitant. Sigh, it's a burden for 13. But I think it's for his fiancée. If we give it to our disciples, no one will say anything. Besides, 13 didn't shortchange any one of your senior brothers and junior brothers' cultivation resources, right? Yang Lei said. There shouldn't be a problem, Sikong Chuyu said. As a disciple of Medicine Valley, I have the obligation to make Medicine Valley rise. But from a personal standpoint, I also have my own feelings. Although that's what I said, I can't hurt the relationship between our senior brothers. So, I won't keep them. You can give the rest to your senior brother, Night Sorrow said with some emotion. Aoi and Yang Lei nodded. They knew that Night Sorrow was tired, but they couldn't say it. They didn't want to hurt the relationship between their senior and junior brothers. Chuyu, don't just focus on your cultivation. Follow the two senior sisters and get some fresh air. After we're done with Medicine Valley, we can go home and visit. Night Sorrow said to Sikong Chuyu. He felt guilty towards Sikong Chuyu. Back then, when he was still a small fry, Sikong Chuyu was willing to be with him. But now, he already had 3 fiancées. The 4 of them didn't return to the mansion. Instead, they chatted on the wooden boat. At night, they made a bonfire, roasted fish, and drank some wine. After dawn, Night Sorrow sent the 3 girls away. Then, he returned to the mansion's secret cultivation room and entered the space-time pagoda in a flash. The blood in your body is rolling like a tide, and smoke is rising into the sky. Your body's cultivation has improved again. Seeing Night Sorrow enter, Yin Shi, who was meditating, stood up. Successfully leveled up. Make a pot of hot tea. How have you been recently? Night Sorrow pointed at the teapot and asked. I lost a lot of my cultivation. Now that I've recovered to the peak of the Venerable Realm, it will take some time to enter the Saint Realm, Yin Shi said. Didn't I give you the Dragon Spirit pills? How many have you used? Night Sorrow asked. I used 7 pills, but I can't use resources to level up at the moment. That will make my foundation unstable. Before entering the Saint Realm, I have to be steady, Yin Shi said. You have experience in this area. You can decide for yourself. You don't need the Dragon Spirit pills anymore. Give them back to me. You used 7 pills. You're really something, Night Sorrow said. Can't you give them to me? I still need them when I enter the Saint Realm. Although they can't increase my cultivation by 1 level, they're still a great help. Yin Shi took out the pill bottle, but she was reluctant to part with it. Well, you can keep them. But I don't understand. The energy of the Dragon Spirit pills can increase the cultivation of a Venerable by 1 level. You were a level 7 Venerable at that time, and now you're a level 9 Venerable. You took 7 of them. How did you manage to take them? Night Sorrow asked. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. What? I'm different from other cultivators. I have the realm, the foundation, and the strength of my soul. What I lack is energy. So after taking them, I compressed them with all my strength. 2 dragon spirit pills were enough to replenish my cultivation by 1 level, she said. I see. Then I understand. You can use them as you see fit, Night Sorrow said. Then I'll keep them. My cultivation speed is fast. It's only good for you, she said. Also, how's the cultivation of your chi and blood force? Night Sorrow asked. Then I'll be direct. There's a special situation. The resources you gave me can increase my chi and blood force, but they can't be stabilized. In other words, after I use my ultimate skill, it will be consumed. However, the essence you left in my body is different. It's equivalent to merging with my body. If I cultivate diligently, my chi and blood force will be fundamentally improved. Then, when I use my ultimate skill, wind escape, I won't suffer from a loss of chi and blood force. She said, but her voice wasn't loud. What she meant was that she still wanted more. But she couldn't say, Night Sorrow, come and take me. Ah. I'm also confused. Actually, it was my intention to subdue you and make you my fighter. I didn't want to take advantage of you, Night Sorrow sighed. In fact, Night Sorrow felt that it was normal to subdue Shi. After all, Shi was the one who dealt with him first. However, now that he had a relationship with Shi, Night Sorrow felt that he was lacking and was somewhat disgraceful. I've been cultivating longer than you, so I can understand your mentality. Some things are my own fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I've accepted my fate since I was captured by you. If you want to fight, I can fight. If you want something, I can give it to you. My only hope is that you can retain some dignity, she said. Chapter 749. Geniuses remember love in 1 second. I will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. Okay, if you need me to do anything, just tell me. As long as I recover my cultivation to the saint realm, I won't be afraid of ordinary beginner saints. She said. Sometimes, I really don't understand how things ended up like this. Night Sorrow sighed with emotion. Maybe this is fate. I've been cultivating for a long time, but I didn't expect to fall into the hands of a venerable and even lose my virginity. She sighed and said. Virginity. Night Sorrow was stunned for a moment and looked at Shi. Are you playing dumb? You didn't see the blood at that time. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Shi's eyes were burning with anger. I thought you were hurt, so I didn't think in that direction. You've been cultivating for a long time, but you haven't married? Night Sorrow was surprised. No. In the past years, I've been obsessed with cultivation and always wanted to suppress Ciel en June, so I didn't think about the relationship between a man and a woman. Now that I'm with you, I don't need to maintain my dignity. I want to cultivate and improve the fundamental strength of my body and the strength of my chi and blood. She nodded and looked at Night Sorrow. I didn't think about it, but with you like this, how can I bear it? Night Sorrow smiled bitterly. In fact, he had been avoiding having sex with Shi, but the reality was different from what he expected. Then Shi went behind Night Sorrow and undressed. She still had to maintain a little dignity, so she didn't want to change clothes in front of Night Sorrow. Yishan took off his robe, turned around, and carried Shi to the spiritual jade stone block he was cultivating on. Then, he lifted Shi's 2 jade-like legs with both hands and began to break through. Head XK hair, Night Sorrow, who had cultivated the outer section of the myriad Tao Tome, had a strong body, which was not something Shi could withstand. Her cries reverberated in the space of the space-time treasure pagoda. However, not long after, her cries turned into sounds of pleasure. The battle between the two lasted for a very long time, and only ended after 2 hours. You don't know how to take care of people at all. You and your woman would never be like this. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and said. Like you said, she's my woman. You're not, Night Sorrow said as he put on his robe. That's why you do as you please. She felt a little wronged because Night Sorrow didn't pity her at all. Night Sorrow put on his robe and sat down on the spirit jade block. At the same time, he took out the desolate stone and began to cultivate. She also began to cultivate. She wanted to refine the essence energy that Night Sorrow left in her body. Night Sorrow cultivated for 8 days. Because of the increase in his cultivation, Night Sorrow's speed of refining the desolate stone had also increased. The refining time had also shortened. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow took out another desolate stone and continued to refine it. After entering the space-time treasure pagoda for a little more than half a month, Night Sorrow had refined 2 desolate stones. After sensing his body, Night Sorrow discovered that while increasing the energy attribute of the myriad Tao Tome, his cultivation had also increased by a lot. After all, the desolate stone didn't only contain the power of desolates, it also contained pure energy. After glancing at Night Sorrow didn't care about that thirsty gaze and directly left the space-time treasure pagoda. Half a month had passed. Aoi and the other 2 must have returned. He wanted to go out and take a look. Otherwise, the 3 of them would be anxious again. After exiting the secret cultivation room, Night Sorrow saw the 3 women and old man Gu drinking tea in the courtyard in front of the mansion. You're very obedient this time. Seeing Night Sorrow come out, Yang Lei smiled and nodded. Isn't it because I was afraid that 9th senior sister would be angry? Night Sorrow sat down and said with a smile. Okay, if you're obedient, I won't be angry. Yang Lei said as she hooked her arm around Night Sorrow's neck. How's the Medicine Valley? Night Sorrow asked. Of course it's good. Excluding you, the Medicine Valley still has the 3 sovereigns and a lot of stage 5 cultivators. It has the strength to become the #1 sect in the Eastern Profound Domain. In addition, the Medicine Valley has done a good job in expanding its medicinal pill resources. It has now reached the unbounded desolation realm. Of course, this was arranged by Aunt Fei. Yang Lei said. It's fine as long as the sect is doing well. How's your business? Night Sorrow asked again. It's all done. We even went to Chuyu's place to eat and drink a few times, Aoi said with a smile. Then I'm relieved. Night Sorrow nodded. Then, Night Sorrow went to see Tianyu. Afterward, the few of them drank tea, chatted, and had dinner together. Yang Lei smiled at Night Sorrow and Aoi, then went to cultivate with Sikong Chuyu. 13th junior brother, how did the 2 of them become partners? Aoi's face was flushed. It's nothing. They just want to give us more time alone. Night Sorrow held Aoi's hand and led her to the pavilion where Aoi lived. Night Sorrow was especially gentle when he was with Aoi. Among the 3 women, Aoi was the weakest, and Night Sorrow cared about her the most. 13th junior brother, 6th senior sister will try her best to adapt, but she can't do it now. Why don't you go and find them? Aoi said with an apologetic look. 6th senior sister, don't be like this. 9th senior sister and Chuyu can't do it either. They bully me together, Night Sorrow said with a smile. The 2 of them are so embarrassing. Aoi buried her head in Night Sorrow's chest. Night Sorrow also smiled. They were a family, so there was nothing to hide. Aoi might have felt it too, but she wasn't sure. It's nothing. We are a family. Night Sorrow patted Aoi's back. So they are like this. No wonder I can't do it. But there are some things that 6th senior sister needs to think about. Although junior brother is the one benefiting, we can't be too embarrassed. Aoi said after thinking for a while. Sixth senior sister, I am actually very happy with this kind of life. I don't always think about this when I am with you. Night Sorrow said. Sixth senior sister understands, but we can't always let you be like this. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's rest and lie in 13th junior brother's arms. Aoi moved her body to make herself more comfortable. After resting for a night, while Night Sorrow was practicing his spear art, Yang Lei teased Aoi for a while. You two are not embarrassed. You two are together and I am alone. Aoi looked at Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu and said unhappily. Then we will be together in the future. I am just worried that sixth senior sister can't accept it. Yang Lei said. Night Sorrow couldn't stay any longer because it was all about women. He went to the lake and started practicing his spear art. It was a chaotic world now. Yi Shang was anxious to increase his strength. Strength was the foundation of everything. He had absorbed 2 desolation stones. Whether it was the desolation's hand or the myriad Tao Tome spear technique, their power had increased greatly. It was not just a little, but a great improvement. Firstly, the myriad Tao Tome had leveled up. The energy in Night Sorrow's body had become much stronger. Secondly, the quality had increased. The 2 desolate stones made Night Sorrow's myriad Tao Tome's energy attack stronger. Chapter 750. Genius 1 second. Remember love go divided by Shao. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Haotian City had not appeared for 10,000 years. No one knew what the situation was like. If there was an opportunity, then the first person to enter would definitely benefit. Baidu search love go female sign Shao Shua www.aichux. Xiaom. After cultivating for a while, Night Sorrow entered the space-time pagoda to recover. However, he did not talk to Yin Shi. When facing her, Night Sorrow felt a little awkward. After cultivating for a day, Night Sorrow returned to his residence. After eating dinner, he greeted the 3 girls. He had to continue refining the desolate stone. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi nodded. They knew that Night Sorrows accompanying them had already delayed his cultivation. In addition, improving his cultivation was also a big matter. It was hard to say what kind of opponents he would face in the future. If he lost because the gap was not large, then it might be because of his slacking today. Seeing Night Sorrow come in, Yin Shi was stunned. Didn't you cultivate during the day? You still want to cultivate at night? Night Sorrow took out a desolate stone and nodded. I want to strengthen my attribute. What about you? When can you return to the Saint Realm? If you can return to the Saint Realm, then I will bring you out to explore. It will be more confident. Where do you plan to go? Yin Shi asked curiously. For example, if there is a chance to enter Haotian City, or we can enter the Supreme River Space. The last time I entered, I couldn't fight because my strength was too low. I didn't dare to explore carefully. That was an ancient battlefield from 10,000 years ago. It's not right that there are no remnants. Night Sorrow thought for a while and said. Didn't you say that we can't enter the Supreme River Space? Yin Shi frowned and asked. Others can't enter, but I can. My Nihility Protective Chi cover can suppress any attribute below the supreme attribute. Night Sorrow said. That's too abnormal. No wonder. In the history of cultivators, there has never been a supreme attribute. Even high-level attributes are extremely rare. Excluding the high-level attributes brought by innate talents, those who have high-level attributes themselves are very rare. Baidu search love go Shao Shua www.aichux.com. Yin Shi said. How many saints are there with high-level attributes? Night Sorrow asked. How many? I don't know about Long Xianxing, but the golden phoenix is a high-level attribute. As for the others, including the arrogant Xiaolongjun, they are only at the peak of ordinary attributes. She said. She had a deep grudge against Xiaolongjun and scolded her the moment she mentioned Xiaolongjun. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, but there are some cultivators with advanced attributes. There are also some supremacies with advanced attributes. It's very difficult to have a high-grade attribute, and it's even more difficult to upgrade a normal attribute to a high-grade one. Not to mention entering the saint realm with a high-grade attribute. That's as difficult as ascending to the heavens. How can one master a high-grade attribute's rule power? Since he couldn't find any source stones, what about saint crystals? How could a cultivator without a high-grade attribute cultivate to the sage realm obtain a high-grade attribute saint crystal? As for the special places where the rule power can be displayed, it's very rare, not to mention the places where the high-grade rule power can be displayed. It's going to be very difficult for you in the future. She looked at Night Sorrow and said. I already said that I have the Nihility Fate Pearl. Why are you worrying about me? I'm the one asking you now. Night Sorrow glared at Shi and said. I still need to refine it. I still need some time. It's hard to say how much time I'll need. Shi muttered. Don't meddle in my business. Work hard on your cultivation. Don't drag me out and get destroyed by others. Night Sorrow said snappily. Seeing that Night Sorrow's tone wasn't good, Shi didn't say anything. She was a little afraid of Night Sorrow in her heart because she couldn't bear the torture from her soul. Work hard on your cultivation. If you need any resources, just tell me. Seeing that Shi was obedient, Night Sorrow said and began to meditate to refine the desolate stone. SX Genuine Edition W/9X. Seeing that Night Sorrow had begun to cultivate, she didn't say anything. In fact, she still wanted Night Sorrow's essence blood. However, Night Sorrow didn't want it. After refining another desolate stone, Night Sorrow stopped cultivating. He couldn't absorb the energy from the desolate stone to cultivate anymore. His myriad Tao treasured tome was strengthened by his elemental power. The number of books had also increased to the peak of level 1 spirit refinement realm. Make a pot of tea. Night Sorrow said to Shi. Shi got up from the futon and went to make tea. Okay, I'll go to a small town later. You go and buy what you need. Night Sorrow said to Shi, who was making tea. Shi nodded. She had always had high standards for her life. The tea she was drinking now was of the highest quality. After drinking the tea, Night Sorrow left the space-time pagoda. He knew that Shi needed his essence blood. It wasn't that he didn't want it, but he felt that it wasn't suitable. Within the space-time pagoda, Shi's eyes were filled with disappointment. She knew very well what was going on. Night Sorrow wouldn't want to have anything to do with her if he could control himself. After leaving the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow ate breakfast with the girls. Then, he went to the lakeside to cultivate. The girls also followed Night Sorrow. They had been cultivating hard for a while. Now, they also wanted to relax. Seeing Night Sorrow cultivate the spatial split, the girls were shocked. They had seen this before. After cultivating for a while, he returned to the wooden boat. After greeting the girls, Night Sorrow entered the space-time pagoda to recover. Seeing Night Sorrow meditating, Shi's face was filled with admiration. Night Sorrow was too persistent and hardworking. After recovering, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate the spatial split. The girls also began to cultivate their sword techniques. They all wanted to cultivate their intent realm. In the evening, after eating dinner, Night Sorrow looked at the three girls. Cultivate well. I plan to go to the Night Moon City for a walk. You don't need us to accompany you. Yang Lei asked. No need. I'm just going out for a breath of fresh air. I'll come back later to rest. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Then, Night Sorrow took the teleportation array and left. He wanted to go to the Night Moon Dynasty's city to take a look. He also wanted to buy some things for Shi. Night Sorrow looked around the Night Moon city. Then, he went to Weo City and Wuemo City. Then, he teleported to a city that the Night Moon had just taken back. Put on a veil and disguise yourself. I'll let you out later. Night Sorrow communicated with Shi. Then, Night Sorrow went to a secluded corner and Night Sorrow let Shi out. Go buy the things you need. Remember, don't go too far from me. Otherwise, I'll treat it as you running away. You'll be embarrassed. Night Sorrow said to Shi, whose hair was wrapped in a veil and her face was still covered. Can't you just walk a few steps behind me? How do I know how far you can sense me? Shi was a little depressed. If Night Sorrow didn't follow her, she didn't dare to walk around. She didn't know how far Night Sorrow's sensing range was. Okay, go. Night Sorrow waved his hand at Shi. Yishang was speechless as he watched Shi buy things. It was as if she was moving things. Silks, brocade quilts, ancient wooden tea tables, Shi moved them all into her storage ring. Chapter 751. Genius 1 second. Remember love go divided by Shao. We provide you with interesting novels to read. When there was no one around, Night Sorrow kept Shi who did not resist into the time and space pagoda. Then, he returned to his residence in the city in the sky. Baidu search AI go female sign Shao say www.aichuxs. When Night Sorrow returned, Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei and Aoi were sipping tea while looking at the night sky on the observation deck of the residence. You women really have good taste in life. After sitting down, Night Sorrow poured himself a cup of tea and said, Hee hee. Don't you want your women to have good taste? Could it be that you will be satisfied if we become haggard women? Yang Lei looked at Night Sorrow and said, No. That's not what I meant. However, even if you are haggard women, you are still the women in my heart. Isn't that so? Night Sorrow said with a smile. You sound happy to hear that. Ninth senior sister is just joking. We know what kind of person you are. Sikong Chuyu said after pouring water into Night Sorrow's empty teacup. After chatting for a while, everyone went to cultivate. As for the matters between men and women, everyone was a cultivator and they could restrain themselves. The matters between men and women were also for the sake of emotional exchanges. Night Sorrow also entered the secret cultivation room and began his cultivation. In his current state of cultivation, Night Sorrow was fully focused on cultivating his innate bloodline power and soul power. Because Night Sorrow had been cultivating these two types of power very well, his foundation was not unstable at all. As for his true Qi and the myriad Tao text, one was at the peak of the second level of the Venerable Realm while the other was at the peak of the first level of the Spirit Refinement Realm. Both of them were obtained quickly and required time to stabilize. After cultivating for a night, Night Sorrow went to the courtyard to cultivate his Spirit Intent Realm early in the morning. After eating breakfast, Aoi said, I won't be watching you cultivate. I'm going to break through to the fourth level of the Void Inquiry stage. At the same time, Kong Chuyu and Yang Lei also had the same intention. Night Sorrow nodded and went to the lakeside to cultivate. Every day, Tian Yu would crawl by the side of the lake and sleep. When he slept, he would cultivate. Baidu search AI go female sign Shao say www.aichuxs. Night Sorrow held the reincarnation spear and began to cultivate the spatial split. At the same time, he used the violent energy within the spatial turbulence to stabilize his cultivation. When he entered the space-time pagoda to recover, Night Sorrow was stunned for a moment. This was because the space on the 60th floor had been decorated like a boudoir by Yin Shi. There was a large pink bed, a purple curtain, and a set of antique furniture. There was also a tea table and a hollow wooden stool. Your quality of life has improved exponentially, Night Sorrow said as he pulled over a wooden stool and sat down. It's not easy to live. Why don't you treat yourself better? Yin Shi said. You're right. When I cultivate in the future, I'll feel more comfortable when I recover, Night Sorrow said with a nod. Yin Shi was very understanding and poured some tea for Night Sorrow. Quickly recover to the saint realm. Otherwise, you won't be one of the top cultivators, Night Sorrow said as he took a sip of tea. I'm really not in a hurry. If I improve my physical fitness and chi and blood energy, then speed will be my strength. I'll have a great advantage in battle, Yin Shi said. Ah. Every time we talk, this problem is always involved. Don't you have any other way? To be honest, I don't want to do that. I have 3 fiancés. I don't want to let them down, Night Sorrow said with a sigh. If you don't say it, and I don't say it, who will know? Yin Shi said. There are some things that others don't know. It's enough for me to know. I can't get past myself, Night Sorrow said. It's not the first time. What's the point of avoiding this now? I won't use this as a bargaining chip to negotiate with you. Since I've been subdued by you, I'll use my own ability to make my life better. It's enough for you to treat them better in the future, Yin Shi said. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. There was indeed no point in avoiding it now. Yin Shi was right. He should treat them better in the future. Night Sorrow could really let go of himself when he was with Yin Shi. No matter what, Yin Shi would cooperate. She was very cooperative, not accompanied by choking sounds. Night Sorrow wanted to stop, but she wouldn't let him. Night Sorrow could only continue fighting. After 2 hours, Yin Shi got what she wanted. Why did you do that? Night Sorrow said with a sigh after tidying himself up. What's wrong? That's normal. Otherwise, as a former 7-star saint, why would I do that? Yin Shi shook her head. She understood that Night Sorrow had no experience in this area. All right. I don't understand. I won't care if you cry or not in the future. Night Sorrow said and went to meditate. Yin Shi glanced at Night Sorrow and went to meditate. She wanted to refine the resources she had just obtained to strengthen herself. Night Sorrow tore the space again and again. He used and tempered his true chi and energy in the turbulent space and returned to the space-time pagoda to recover. After half a month, Night Sorrow decided to break through. His true chi cultivation was already very solid. He didn't want to suppress the myriad Tao treasured tome anymore. He would break through when it was time. During this period of time, Yin Shi's progress was also quite big. Night Sorrow could feel that Yin Shi's body had become stronger. Her chi and blood were also different from before. Night Sorrow's cultivation advanced to level 3 honor realm on the wooden boat. Then, he directly broke through the myriad Tao treasured tomes cultivation to level 2 spirit refinement realm. After Night Sorrow had dinner with the girls, he entered the secret cultivation room again and entered the space-time pagoda in a flash. Genuine first appearance, your cultivation has improved again. Yin Shi was surprised to see Night Sorrow. If you can improve, why can't I? What's your cultivation level now? Night Sorrow took the tea from Yin Shi and asked. My cultivation is still stabilizing, but I'm not far from entering the sage realm. Yin Shi said. What about the cultivation of your body? What exactly are you cultivating? Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi and asked. I have 2 ultimate attributes and I've cultivated the ultimate body. However, this still can't support me to use the wind elemental escape. Only the fusion of the two ultimate bodies, which is the feng shui body, can do that. I'm now cultivating to prepare for the fusion of the two ultimate bodies. She explained to Night Sorrow. So that's the situation. I understand. Night Sorrow nodded. But you still have to help me. There's still a long way to go. She said. I don't understand. I'm the one who subdued you. But now, am I the one who's exploiting you? Or are you the one who's exploiting me? Night Sorrow said speechlessly. What are you talking about? Even if you've subdued me, you can't pretend to be obedient after taking advantage of me. Don't you feel good? What position do you want? What request did I not satisfy? She looked at Night Sorrow and said. I admit that, but it's all to help you cultivate. Night Sorrow looked at she and said. Chapter 752. A genius remembers love in 1 second. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. When you haven't lost something, you don't know how precious it is to have it. Baidu search AI go female sign shao say www.aichuxs. Xiaomin she used to be a 7-star saint and stood at the top of the cultivators. After her cultivation was greatly damaged, she lost all hope. After being subdued by Night Sorrow, she didn't even want to live anymore. But then, she saw hope for the next step, so she let go of everything. Besides, after being subdued, she had already lost everything in front of Night Sorrow. She did not mind losing anything in front of Night Sorrow. All right. As I said before, as long as you are well and obedient, I will let you live a better life. Night Sorrow looked at she and said. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he continued to meditate and stabilize his cultivation. In his current state of cultivation, Night Sorrow did not have to worry about increasing his cultivation. The difficulty was that he needed to spend a long time to stabilize his cultivation. After stabilizing his cultivation base for 2 days, Night Sorrow left the secret cultivation room and returned to his mansion. In the manor, Sikong Chuyu and the other two were practicing their sword techniques. They had all advanced in their cultivation and were focusing on stabilizing their cultivation. Seeing Night Sorrow come out, the 3 women stopped their cultivation. They brewed tea and chatted with Night Sorrow. Not bad. However, we can't rush the step of stabilizing our cultivation. We don't lack resources. Increasing our cultivation isn't difficult. The difficult part is stabilizing, Night Sorrow said. After staying with the girls for a while, Night Sorrow went to see Papa Gu who was cultivating. After that, he went to the lakeside and started cultivating the spatial crack. After advancing, Night Sorrow still needed to stabilize his cultivation. Once his cultivation stabilized, he could continue to use the dragon spirit pills and desolate stones to increase his cultivation. When Night Sorrow came back at night, he saw Lin Yuandao. Master K, what's the situation in Clear Sky City? Night Sorrow asked. There's no way to get close. There are more and more spatial soul-devouring beasts, and the spatial turbulence is filled with those things. Lin Yuandao sighed and shook his head. Then let's continue cultivating, Yishang said. Night Sorrow's plan was to wait until his cultivation reached the middle stage of the Venerable Realm. Then, he would go to the spatial turbulence and see if the void protective air shield could stop the spatial soul-eater beast. In addition, she disappeared without a trace, as if she had disappeared, Lin Yuandao said. Maybe she went to find a place to cultivate. She shouldn't be a threat to anyone anymore, Night Sorrow said. Let's hope so. I'm just here to have a look. Your cultivation base is rising too quickly. Let me give you a word of advice. Haste makes waste. A solid foundation is important. However, there is no problem with the solidity of your true energy. After talking about Night's sorrow, Lin Yuandao smiled again. The main thing was that Night's sorrow showed no signs of having a shaky foundation. Then, after drinking a pot of tea, Lin Yuandao left. He had come to see how the young master of Tianji Tower was cultivating. Normally, Night's sorrow's cultivation should be guided by Lin Yuandao. However, Night's sorrow didn't need any guidance from him. Then, Night's sorrow asked the girls about Wu Ling concubine's situation. Aunt Fei occasionally comes out for a cup of tea. The rest of the time, she is cultivating in the attic, Yang Lei said. Well, I don't know how the clansmen are doing in the Sea of Night Moon. When I have time, I will go to the island and ask sixth uncle. Night's sorrow said. He was eager to see his parents as soon as possible. However, when the Night clan would come out, perhaps only Yilingxia would know. After cultivating for another 2 days, Night's sorrow decided to go into seclusion. This made him feel a little embarrassed. However, the 3 girls sensed that Night's sorrow had something to say. Night's sorrow, do you have something to say? Yang Lei asked. Yes, I am going into seclusion. This time, it might take a little longer, Night's sorrow said. Go. You can't delay your cultivation. If you are tired, come out and rest. Yang Lei looked at Night's sorrow and said. She was happy and a little bitter. She was happy because Night's sorrow really cared about their feelings. She was bitter because Night's sorrow was going to cultivate alone again. I will. The 3 of you too. Don't be too tired because my heart will ache. You are all my favorite women, Night's sorrow said to the 3 girls. Aoi and Sikong Chuyu smiled in response to Night's sorrow. Then, Night's sorrow entered the secret cultivation room and the space-time pagoda. He took out the dragon spirit pill and the desolate stone. He communicated with Shao Kong to help him cultivate his bloodline power and soul power. Night's sorrow took the dragon spirit pill and started cultivating with the desolate stone in his hand. Looking at Night's sorrow cultivating, Yinshi curled her lips and continued cultivating. She still wanted to get some benefits from Night's sorrow. However, Night's sorrow did not think about that. With the help of the dragon spirit pill and the desolate stone, Night's sorrow's cultivation increased. Time slipped away and 8 days passed. Night's sorrow took out another desolate stone and continued to increase his cultivation. After absorbing the 2 desolate stones, Night's sorrow's dragon spirit pill was not far from being refined. He did not continue to refine the desolate stone. After nearly 20 days, Night's sorrow ended his cultivation. His true chi cultivation had reached the peak of level 3 Martial Saint realm. His myriad Dao treasured tome had also improved greatly. Although it was not at the peak of level 2 spirit refinement realm, it was not far from it. As Night's sorrow punched, the scenery in front of his fist changed. Time passed and the speed increased by a lot. In other words, the quality of the power of desolates in Night's sorrow's myriad Dao treasured tome had improved by a lot. For most a new $, chapter end section. Except Night's sorrow roared. He was very happy with such an effect. You've improved a lot. She said as she brewed tea. It's still okay. What about you? Night's sorrow asked after sitting down. If you don't give it to me, how can I improve? I can only stabilize my true chi cultivation. She glanced at Night's sorrow and said. You can't take it just because you want it, right? Night's sorrow drank a mouthful of water and said. Can't you have it at any time? You won't lose anything. She looked at Night's sorrow and said. Her thoughts had changed imperceptibly. She felt that there was something wrong with her when Night's sorrow did not touch her. I can't win against you in an argument. Night's sorrow could not reprimand her. After drinking a pot of tea, Night's sorrow left the space-time treasure pagoda and went to the courtyard of the mansion. When he did not see the three women in the mansion, Night Sorrow went to the martial arts practice field. In the martial arts practice field, Night Sorrow saw Sikong Chuyu and the other two cultivating with the others. When they saw Night Sorrow, the three of them ended their cultivation and came to Night Sorrow's side to brew tea on the stone table. 13. Where did you go? You still smell good. Aoi, who sat beside Night Sorrow, said as she sniffed. How is that possible? I just came out from the secret cultivation room. However, there were some flowers on the way. Night Sorrow's heart trembled. Because he was close to Yin Shi, it might be that Yin Shi's scent had contaminated his body. It's weird. It's different from the usual fragrance of flowers. It's more like a woman's scent. After saying that, Aoi stood up to brew tea. Night Sorrow let out a sigh of relief. He planned to teach Yin Shi a lesson later. Wasn't she tricking him? Chapter 753. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. What's this fragrance? If I didn't know that you've been cultivating, I would definitely ask you where you've been fooling around. Love go little say W. Chusikong Chuyu came to Night Sorrow's side and sniffed. Don't be like this. I'm going to drink tea. Night Sorrow said with a smile. He was now convinced that Aoi, Yang Lei, and Sikong Chuyu were all very smart. One mistake and there would be problems. $. Go first. After drinking tea, Night Sorrow found a rattan and said, Are you guys coming? This time, no one said anything and no one stood up. What's going on? Night Sorrow was a little puzzled. We want to improve ourselves, but we're not fools. Don't you guys know your current situation? Nan Liu said. Sigh. Then I won't play with you guys anymore. Night Sorrow waved the rattan and threw it away. In the next few days, Night Sorrow accompanied the three girls and cultivated in the martial arts field every day. Night Sorrow cultivated his spear art and intent realm. At the same time, he consolidated his cultivation base. When they had dinner together again, Sikong Chuyu spoke. She wanted Night Sorrow to do his own things. Although it was important for everyone to be together, he couldn't delay his business. Yang Lei and Aoi also had the same idea. They didn't want to delay Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow decided to go to the island in the Realm Sea tomorrow. He also told the three girls that he wasn't sure when he would return. After cultivating for a night, he greeted the Sikong Chuyu trio and Papa Gu. Then, he bowed towards the pavilion where Wu Lingfei was cultivating and went to the lakeside to check on Tianyu. Night Sorrow asked Tianyu to cultivate here in peace. However, Tianyu wanted to follow Night Sorrow, so Night Sorrow didn't refuse. He took the transformed Tianyu and left Sky City through the teleportation circle. After teleporting to Haohai City, Night Sorrow took out a flying ship and headed for the island in the Realm Sea with Tianyu. It was very extravagant for the two of them to sit on a flying ship, but Night Sorrow was rich enough that he didn't mind spending a few spirit stones. He and Tianyu drank some wine and arrived at the island in the Realm Sea in a very comfortable manner. Night Sorrow first went to see Yilingxia. When he saw Night Sorrow's cultivation, Yilingxia was shocked. Then, his face lit up with joy. Your cultivation improved quickly and it's solid. That's great, Yilingxia said to Night Sorrow. It's not bad. Sixth uncle, what's the situation with the family? Night Sorrow asked. They'll come out soon. It won't be long. Also, your father has entered the half-step sage realm. The family wants us to stabilize, said Yilingxia. My father has cultivated to the half-step sage realm. That's great. Night Sorrow was very excited to hear that his father had entered the half-step sage realm. We don't need to worry. The Tianfeng dynasty has been destroyed and Qin Yuan is dead. Night Moon dynasty won't have much pressure to fight after returning, said Yilingxia. Sixth uncle, send a spy to find out the cultivation level of the 7-star saint from the 7-star dynasty, said Night Sorrow to Yilingxia. I've checked. This is the most difficult part. Night Moon can't handle it alone. He's a 5-star saint. If we can't handle it, we can only ask Tianji Tower for help, said Yilingxia. No need. I'll handle this. Don't ask for help. That's all. I'll go cultivate, said Night Sorrow to Yilingxia. You can handle it. Yilingxia asked in surprise. Love go little say W. Chu, I don't need to ask for help or tell the family. I don't need to rush out either. It's best to stabilize. Night Sorrow nodded. Then, Night Sorrow left the place where Yilingxia and the others were cultivating. Yin Shi, you handle this matter. The 7-star saint is a 5-star saint. Hurry up and recover, then kill him for me. Night Sorrow communicated with Yin Shi. His soul power was in Yin Shi's mind, so Yin Shi naturally knew what he meant. Just now, Night Sorrow also let Yin Shi listen to his conversation with Yilingxia, so Yin Shi also knew what was going on. All right. That's why you don't ask for help. But I want essence energy. I want to cultivate. When I become a saint again, I want to cultivate the wind essence body. At this time, Yin Shi didn't care so much and directly shouted her request in the space-time pagoda. Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. He didn't understand what was going on. Then, Night Sorrow went to see Long Xianqing and drank a jar of wine with him. Only then did he go to Tianji Tower's camp. While chatting with Xie Longjun and the others, Night Sorrow heard Yin Shi cursing in the space-time pagoda. He then closed his soul power, not letting Yin Shi listen to his conversation with Xie Longjun and the others. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow went to the place where he originally camped and set up a tent. Then, he flashed into the space-time pagoda. I've always kept my soul power and my soul power open so that you can feel the situation outside. I'm afraid that you will feel suffocated here, but you will shout and scream. If you do this again, I won't let you know the situation outside anymore. Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi and said, Don't. This is my fault. I saw that Xie Longjun was too angry, so I couldn't suppress my anger. Seeing that Night Sorrow was angry, Yin Shi became obedient. Be careful in the future. I can accommodate you for some things, but there is a bottom line. You can't force me to use my soul power to restrain you. I know. Yin Shi nodded. She really didn't want to bear the torture of her soul now. That 7-star saint is a 5-star saint. Can you kill him? Or a sneak attack? Night Sorrow asked. I can if I recover to the level of an intermediate saint. However, the prerequisite is that I have to cultivate the Wind Yuan body and the Wind Yuan escape. Yin Shi whispered. Isn't the Wind Yuan escape an innate skill for escaping? Night Sorrow frowned. The Wind Yuan escape is an innate skill for escaping, but it also has an auxiliary movement technique, the Wind Yuan flash. It used to be useless because I couldn't use it to fight. However, if I cultivate the Wind Yuan body, there won't be any drawbacks. The Wind Yuan flash won't be a technique that hurts the body. Yin Shi said. In the end, you still want essence. Here you go. Night Sorrow pushed Yin Shi onto the big pink bed. After fighting for a while, Night Sorrow took a deep breath. I'll give you what you want. However, when I want to kill the 7-star saint, if you can't do it, it's meaningless for me to keep you alive. I won't kill you. I'll just throw you into the first level of the space-time pagoda and let you perish on your own. I'll work hard to cultivate. It's my fault today. I won't bare my fangs and brandish my claws in the future. She pulled her skirt over her body and said. She knew that Night Sorrow was still angry at her for cursing Ciel Anjun today. During this period of time, I admit that I've treated you well. I didn't abuse you or bully you. However, this isn't the right for you to be unreasonable with me. Night Sorrow said. She nodded and didn't say anything. She could tell that Night Sorrow was really angry. Chapter 754. Genius 1 second. Remember love go/little? I'll provide you with interesting novels to read. If you can keep giving me essence energy, half a month. Half a month will do, she said. Alright, just shout if you need it during this time. Night Sorrow took out the Sun Dragon wine and drank a mouthful before leaving the Spacetime Pagoda. He walked out of the tent and flew towards the realm sea. He wanted to see the situation of the spatial soul-devouring beasts in the spatial turbulence. About 20 miles into the realm sea, Night Sorrow arrived at the edge of the spatial storm. At this time, Night Sorrow saw the spatial soul-devouring beasts shuttling through the spatial turbulence. Look! Chapter LQ, Section M of the W version. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow decided to give it a try. He wanted to see if his protective barrier could block the attacks of the spatial soul-devouring beasts. After taking a deep breath, Night Sorrow activated the protective barrier of a peak 3rd grade venerable and entered the spatial turbulence. He then stopped. At this time, the two spatial soul-devouring beasts charged towards Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow stood there and allowed the spatial soul-devouring beasts to crash into his protective barrier. As the spatial soul-devouring beasts crashed, Night Sorrow's protective barrier caved in. However, it did not break. The two spatial soul-devouring beasts continued to crash into it. The spatial attribute is still incomparable to the sovereign attribute, Night Sorrow muttered softly and felt a little more at ease. After enduring for a while and confirming that the protective barrier could withstand the spatial soul-devouring beasts, Night Sorrow wanted to see if his body, which had been greatly enhanced by the power of desolates, could withstand the attacks of the spatial soul-devouring beasts. After removing the protective barrier, Night Sorrow circulated the power of the myriad Tao tome to protect himself. Whoosh! Whoosh! The spatial soul-devouring beasts tore apart Night Sorrow's robes and crashed into his body. They wanted to drill into Night Sorrow's body and enter the divine sea. But in reality, the soul-devouring beast was only able to break through Night Sorrow's robes. It was unable to break through the defense of Night Sorrow's body. Night Sorrow waved his hand and punched out with the power of the myriad Tao tome. A spatial soul-devouring beast was sent flying by Night Sorrow's punch. Night Sorrow's fist, imbued with the power of desolates, sent the spatial soul-eating beast flying into the realm sea. Soon after, Night Sorrow held the reincarnation spear and compressed the true chi of nothingness. Then, he attacked with the spear. When Night Sorrow's true energy converged into a single point, the soul-eater beast couldn't hold on any longer. Its body was obliterated, and the two halves of its body fell into the realm sea. After that, Night Sorrow began to cultivate in the spatial turbulence of the realm sea and began to fight the spatial soul-devouring beast. After increasing his cultivation, Night Sorrow's nothingness attribute was much more condensed than before. His protective barrier could withstand the attacks of the soul-devouring beast, so he had nothing to worry about. This was the importance of increasing one's cultivation. The difference between a level 2 venerable and a level 3 venerable was only one level, but their strength was completely different. Night Sorrow also tried to change the way he attacked with the spear. When he attacked with the 7-star glorious moon spear, the energy was used on a single point. If he wanted to break through the enemy, he would use the extreme melting. After fighting for 2 hours, Night Sorrow returned to the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda and drank a mouthful of Dragon Sun wine. You're almost done refining just now, right? Let's continue. Night Sorrow beckoned Shi. It's only been 2 hours. Can you do it? Although I'm anxious, I can't hurt your body, she said. It doesn't matter. I'm indeed anxious. After our Night Moon dynasty returns, we'll counterattack. The 7-star dynasty has a 5-star saint. This is an unavoidable obstacle, Night Sorrow said. I'll do my best, she said. Love go little say W, chew, come on. My body is strong, and I've also drunk some dragon sun wine. I should be able to do it. Night Sorrow nodded at she. Then, she took off her skirt and went to the big pink bed. Night Sorrow went to the side of the big pink bed and saw she pull one of her legs to the side of the bed and attack directly. This time, Night Sorrow wanted to deal with it, but in fact, he still fought for a long time. After that, Night Sorrow drank 2 more mouthfuls of dragon sun wine and meditated to recover. Not only could the dragon sun wine replenish yang qi, but it also had the effect of shaking the wind. It was also a treasure wine that strengthened the body. After recovering for 2 hours, Night Sorrow entered the spatial turbulence of the realm C and fought with the spatial soul eater beast. At this time, Night Sorrow was cultivating in all aspects. Movement technique, spear art, true qi, myriad Tao tome energy, soul energy, and true qi were almost depleted. Night Sorrow used his innate energy to protect himself. Using his innate energy, the spatial attribute, to protect himself, Night Sorrow could only withstand the attacks of the spatial turbulence. He couldn't withstand the attacks of the spatial soul eater beast because their attributes were of the same origin. However, Night Sorrow wasn't worried. Even if the spatial soul eater beast broke through the protective energy, he still had the myriad Tao tome's energy to protect himself. After exhausting most of his true qi, Night Sorrow returned to the space-time treasure pagoda. How's your refining? Night Sorrow looked at she and asked. I've finished refining, but you can't do this. Wait a little longer and we'll do it again. I can't hurt your body, she said. Okay, then continue cultivating. We'll talk about it later. Night Sorrow drank the sun dragon wine again and started cultivating. He was really going all out now. Not only did he want to cultivate well, but he also wanted to support she. She could tell that Night Sorrow had been cultivating like crazy ever since he heard that the Night Moon dynasty was coming back and that there was a saint in the 7 Stars dynasty. After resting, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate in the spatial turbulence of the realm C. All-round cultivation and improvement were what Night Sorrow wanted the most. Who knew how many soul eater beasts had been killed by Night Sorrow, but there were simply too many of them. Night Sorrow just had to travel back and forth in one area to fight, so he didn't have to worry about not having a target to fight. As the battle went on, Night Sorrow's spear art became sharper and sharper. Every spear attack was compressed to the extreme. In other words, he displayed the dominance of the void attribute as the supreme attribute. Night Sorrow returned to the pagoda of time when he was almost exhausted. After drinking a mouthful of sun dragon wine, Night Sorrow waved at she. You have to pay attention to yourself, she said as she took off her skirt. It's okay. I want to relax now. Night Sorrow shook his head at she. After giving she his essence qi, Night Sorrow began to meditate and recover. She also began to cultivate. With the help of Night Sorrow's essence qi, she's wind origin body had improved greatly. Night Sorrow continued to cultivate. Fortunately, she had a bottom line. She controlled the pace of some things and only needed Night Sorrow once or twice a day. Half a month later, Yishang's cultivation was extremely solid, and Yinshi's cultivation had reached the level of entering the saint realm again. Chapter 755. Genius 1 second. Remember, love divided by go divided by little. I will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Okay, let's go somewhere else. I hope you can succeed, Night Sorrow said to Yin Shi. If I can cultivate the body of wind, I can also help you with your cultivation. Yin Shi looked at Night Sorrow and said, You should enter the sage realm first. Night Sorrow said. Then Night Sorrow left the island and went to a mountain in the Haohai city area. Night Sorrow felt that it was very quiet here and no one would disturb him. So, he let Yin Shi out. Night Sorrow thought for a while and gave Yin Shi half a bottle of spiritual fluid of life and spiritual fluid of origin. He also told her how to use them. More. New, fastest, on $X. You really care about people. Maybe this is the reason why your 3 fiancés are so loyal to you. Yin Shi took the spiritual fluid of life and spiritual fluid of origin and said. Night Sorrow didn't say anything and just smiled. Yin Shi sat down cross-legged and started to advance. In the beginning, it was very stable, but as her aura climbed, 2 types of energy appeared on her body. Her body would sometimes be filled with green energy, and sometimes it would be filled with blue energy. Yi Sorrow knew that this was a transition between 2 extreme forms of energy. Love go little say W. 4 hours later, Yin Shi's aura changed. The power of rules appeared on her body. At the same time, the energy on her body also changed dramatically. There was blue and green and blue. Then, it integrated into Yin Shi's body. Yi Shang felt that Yin Shi had changed. Her silver hair, which was originally very bright, had a luster flowing through it like water ripples. At this time, a tribulation cloud appeared in the sky and rolled above Yin Shi's head. Yin Shi swung her hands in front of her chest and abdomen. Then, she stood up and took out a long sword with her right hand. When Yin Shi was ready, the thunder and lightning struck down. Night Sorrow found that the lightning was much stronger than the lightning that appeared when he was advancing. They were not on the same level, but he could understand. After all, one was a venerable level thunder tribulation, and the other was a saint level thunder tribulation. They were not on the same level at all. While Night Sorrow was pondering, the thunder tribulation descended. At this moment, Night Sorrow witnessed the speed of Yin Shi, who had cultivated the wind essence body. When she dodged and retreated, Night Sorrow could barely see her figure clearly. He could only see the sword chi slashing towards the thunder tribulation. The lightning was strong, but Yin Shi's speed was fast. When she was dodging, she quickly attacked with her sword. With dozens of rapid strikes, the lightning was neutralized. Love go little say ku after the lightning disappeared, the tribulation clouds in the sky also disappeared. It was just a bolt of tribulation lightning. However, after the thunder tribulation, there was no colorful light. Only a ball of light fell on Yin Shi's body. Then, Yin Shi began to meditate and cultivate. Night Sorrow took out a jar of Longyang wine, poured a bowl, and drank slowly. During this period of time, he had been suppressed by Yin Shi. If it was an ordinary person, he would not be able to withstand it. However, Night Sorrow also found a benefit. After drinking the Longyang wine, the excess yang qi was suppressed by Yin Shi, and the remaining energy was used to strengthen his body. 2 hours later, Yin Shi stood up. It's done. My current speed is not far from when I was at my peak. When my cultivation recovers a little, even if I meet Xie Jun, I won't be defeated. Yin Shi, Senior Xie is still good to me. Don't be hostile to her in the future, okay? What you have done is in the past. Look at the future. Let go of your hatred and you will live a better life. Night Sorrow said. Okay. I won't talk about this in the future. I also hope that you won't embarrass me in front of her. This is the last thing I want to accept. Consider it my request. Yin Shi looked at Night Sorrow and said. If there is a need to meet, I will say that you are my friend. I will say that after I was kidnapped by you, we became friends. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said. She did not speak. She only bowed to Night Sorrow. There are some things that I can and will hide. However, I will not lie to my Aunt Faye and my fiancé. I will not lie to the people around me. However, I will tell them about the situation between us. I believe that they will not look down on you. Night Sorrow said. She nodded. She also knew that this was Night Sorrow's bottom line. Okay, the rest is for you to slowly recover. I will continue to improve my cultivation. Night Sorrow said. At this time, Night Sorrow's cultivation had reached a bottleneck. However, he did not want to break through now. He was now a peak level 3 venerable. If he broke through again, he would become a mid-level venerable. Therefore, he planned to consolidate his cultivation at this stage. In addition, he wanted to let the myriad Tao treasured tome catch up and reach the same level. Do you still want to go to the realm C to cultivate? She looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, yes. Actually, you can also go there to consolidate your cultivation. If you are afraid of being seen by the saints of Tianji Tower, we can go to another island. She nodded. She also felt that this was a good idea. After Night Sorrow went back to bid farewell to Xiaolongjun and the others, he went to the island where she used to live. Night Sorrow and she entered the spatial turbulence in the realm C to cultivate every day. She cultivated the wind origin body, which was equivalent to combining the elements of wind and water. Her attack power was strong. Coupled with the power of rules, she could kill the spatial soul eater beast. However, the spatial storm did not train her at all. It only helped her consolidate her cultivation. This situation also made Night Sorrow understand why no saints entered the spatial turbulence in the realm C to cultivate. She's situation was special. She was not training her cultivation but consolidating it. The effect was still very obvious. Night Sorrow also planned to level up the myriad Tao treasured tome. Only by leveling up could he use the desolate stone to continue improving his attributes. He could not use the desolate stone now because his cultivation had reached a critical point. Before he was about to break through, Night Sorrow looked at Shi. I know what you are going to say. Don't stay too far away from you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Actually, I also want to go into seclusion. Let's enter the space-time pagoda together. Shi looked at Night Sorrow and said. Since we are both going into seclusion, let's enter the space-time pagoda. At least it will be safe. Night Sorrow nodded and then entered the space-time pagoda with Shi. After entering the space-time pagoda, Shi made a pot of tea. After drinking the tea, Night Sorrow went to the spiritual jade stone stool to cultivate. She also sat on the futon to cultivate. With the dragon spirit pill that Night Sorrow had given her, her cultivation had skyrocketed. Now, she was charging towards becoming a 2-star saint. In the past, Shi had been able to cultivate to the level of a 7-star saint. She was not a brainless person. She knew that Yishang's luck was shocking and that he was also her nemesis. At the same time, he could also help her grow. However, there was one thing that she could not go against Yishang's wishes. She also realized that Night Sorrow did not force her to do anything. Therefore, she felt at ease. She also knew that she had borrowed Night Sorrow's luck. It was as if the problem of her body that had not been solved for many years had been solved easily. Although the solution was a little unorthodox. Chapter 756. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Night Sorrow had a good foundation in the myriad Tao tome, so it was not difficult for him to cultivate and level up. During cultivation, Night Sorrow's body would provide him with energy to strengthen his soul. Then, he would use his soul power and absorb energy to strengthen his body and the energy in his body. As long as Night Sorrow did not suppress his level up, he could level up while cultivating the myriad Tao tome. He had been suppressing it because he did not want his foundation to be unstable. As time passed, Night Sorrow's cultivation of the myriad Tao tome increased sharply. With a roar in his body, the energy in the myriad Tao tome surged and broke through the bottleneck of the second level of the myriad Tao tome and entered the third level of the myriad Tao tome. Then, it began to circulate naturally. Success. Night Sorrow's breakthrough ended perfectly. The energy in his body and the strength of his body increased again. Night Sorrow did not get up and continued to stabilize his cultivation. While stabilizing his cultivation, Night Sorrow also started cultivating his soul power and bloodline talent. As for the cultivation of his chi, Night Sorrow did not intend to level up. He wanted to suppress his cultivation and continue to stabilize it. Night Sorrow used 3 days to stabilize his cultivation. When Night Sorrow opened his eyes and stood up, Yin Shi was making tea and tasting it. "Let's go out and cultivate." After drinking a cup of tea and nodding to Yin Shi, Night Sorrow wrapped Yin Shi with his soul power and left the space-time treasure pagoda. Then, they entered the space turbulence in the realm sea to fight with the space turbulence storm and the space soul-eating beast. Watching Night Sorrow cultivate, Yin Shi also entered the space turbulence. She had just become a 2-star saint and needed to stabilize her cultivation. Actual combat was the best way to do so. After cultivating for 4 hours, Night Sorrow returned to the edge of the island. He took out the Long Yang wine. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow changed to ordinary wine and drank 2 mouthfuls. At this moment, Yin Shi also came back. "The blood qi in your body has increased again. Your body refining technique is indeed powerful. I already said that it doesn't suit you. If it suits you, you can have it." Night Sorrow glanced at Yin Shi and said, "I'm just lamenting. I don't want it." Yin Shi explained. She didn't want Night Sorrow to have any misunderstandings because it wouldn't do her any good. In addition, she also understood that if it was suitable for her, Night Sorrow would give it to her because she was under Night Sorrow's control. After recovering for a while, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate in the realm sea. At this time, the soul-devouring beast in the chaotic streams of space had less and less influence on him. Some time ago, when Night Sorrow entered the chaotic streams of space, the soul-devouring beast broke through his protective shield and crashed into him. He still felt a lot of pain. Now, he only felt a little numb. This was the effect of the myriad Tao tome strengthening his body and increasing his energy. Every time Night Sorrow entered the realm sea, he only wore battle pants because even if he wore an outer robe, it couldn't withstand the soul-devouring beast's damage. In addition, the soul-devouring beast only attacked Night Sorrow's chest and neck. As for Yin Shi, she didn't want the soul-devouring beast to touch her body like a loach. However, she could rely on her dodging and attacking speed to avoid the soul-devouring beast's attacks. At the same time, she could send the soul-devouring beast flying and kill it. After cultivating for another 6 or 7 days, Night Sorrow decided to go back to the original camping area because he was afraid that if something happened, no one would be able to find him. "Night Sorrow, if your protective energy is stronger, you can wrap me up and I'll take you. We'll have a chance to enter Clear Sky City." Yin Shi looked at Clear Sky City in the realm sea and said, "That's a good idea, but we don't know if the spatial storm only envelopes the periphery of Clear Sky City or if the inside of Clear Sky City is also filled with chaotic streams of space. If the inside of Clear Sky City has chaotic streams of space like the outside, or even more violent, then it's useless for us to enter. We can't even investigate." Night Sorrow thought for a moment and shook his head at Yin Shi. Then, he enveloped Yin Shi with his soul power and brought her back to the pagoda of time and space. Then, they returned to the place where Yilingxia and the others were staying. Night Sorrow and Yin Shi had different thoughts. Yin Shi didn't care about the outside world and only pursued self-improvement. However, Night Sorrow was different. He had worries and things to deal with. This was the difference between interpersonal relationships and social relationships. Then, Night Sorrow went to greet Xiao Longjun and the others. When Xiao Longjun saw Night Sorrow, she criticized Night Sorrow. She was worried that Night Sorrow would be intercepted by Yin Shi and the enemy forces if he ran around like this. The Extreme Heaven Tower had destroyed the Tianfeng dynasty, the Silver Demon Villa, and even the Western Green sect had been crippled. However, there were too many factions that were hostile to the Night Moon dynasty. Not to mention others, just the few great dynasties wanted to strangle Yishang to death. The few dynasties could still afford to lose a high-level venerable. It was also possible that there would be more assassinations. In addition, there were many people in the 9 realms and 18 states who were hostile to the Empyrean Terminus Tower. They were unwilling to see the Empyrean Terminus Tower grow stronger in the future. It was normal for them to target Yishang. Night Sorrow accepted Xiao Longjun's criticism with a smile. He knew that whoever wanted to kill him or assassinate him would be unlucky. The other party wouldn't directly send a saint to kill him, right? With a super fighter like Yin Shi, wouldn't anyone below the saint realm die? After chatting with Xiao Longjun for a while, Night Sorrow went to visit Long Xianxing. Hee. This body of yours is very tyrannical. I reckon that even the Fist Emperor Li Feng of the ancient times was at this level. Long Xianxing glanced at Yishang and said. Night Sorrow had heard of the name Li Feng. He was an expert in the ancient times. His body was his weapon, and his strength was incomparable. Then, Long Xianxing asked Night Sorrow if he still needed the Xian Turtle Crystal and the Blood Spirit Turtle Crystal. If he needed, he could help Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow thanked Long Xianxing for his kindness. He had enough resources now. The Blood Spirit Turtle Crystal that Long Xianxing gave him last time could definitely support him to cultivate the Myriad Dao Tome to the Saint Realm, which was the Golden Body Realm. However, Night Sorrow also asked if there were any resources that were of a higher level than the Blood Spirit Turtle Crystal. Long Xianxing thought for a while. There are some. For example, the blood essence of high-level monsters or the blood essence condensed into blood crystals after death. They all have the effect of strengthening the body. In the Ice Plain Sea, there is a monster called the Blood Spirit Jiao. In the Desolate Sea, there is a monster called the Four-Clawed Silver Dragon. They can produce high-level energy to strengthen the body. Thank you, Senior. Night Sorrow bowed to Long Xianxing. That's nothing. I walk the path of inaction. That's why I don't kill. Your path is different from mine. To go against the heavens and fight for supremacy, that is to kill your way out. Go ahead and do it. Long Xianxing said. Night Sorrow then bade farewell to Long Xianxing. Night Sorrow had a lot of life spirit liquid, but he didn't want to use it unless it was a critical moment. He just kept it as a backup. LT positive Y version first $1 post. Chapter 757. A genius remembers love in 1 second. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Where? Night Sorrow asked. Baidu search AI go female sign shao say www.aichuxs.com. There are 4-clawed silver dragons in the wilderness behind the Silver Demon Villa. They should be a clan, Yin Shi said. Long Xianxing said that we don't need to go on the same path, but I don't want to kill for no reason. We'll see when the time comes. Night Sorrow said. Night Sorrow took Yin Shi back to Sky City. He could still cultivate in the Realm Sea, but he didn't want Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi to worry. He was also afraid that Wu Lingfei wouldn't be able to see him. After returning to Sky City, Night Sorrow went to the training field first. At the practice ground, Night Sorrow saw the members of the god-slaying team working hard to cultivate. At this moment, the god-slaying squad already had 4 supremacies. Apart from Night Sorrow, Yun Huang, and Ling Long, Liang Yu had also reached the supremacy realm. Baidu search AI Go female sign Xiao say www.aichuxs. Com. Other than that, there were also a large number of late void inquiry stage team members. Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu had both taken the extreme void pill some time ago. After stabilizing their cultivation bases, they had already advanced to the 8th level of the void inquiry stage. Even though Xueling, Ho Jian, Lei Bao, Nan Liyue, and Lei Zheng were slightly weaker, they were still at the 7th void inquiry stage. The others were also at the mid-void inquiry stage. Only a few of them were at the early void inquiry stage. As for those who had yet to attain the void inquiry stage, only Ma Shizhuang, Tang Tian, and Chu Ning had managed to do so. This was not because of their innate talent and hard work. Instead, it was because they had only cultivated for a short period of time. Aoi had also advanced to the 4th level of the void inquiry stage. With the help of the Great Void Pill, she easily reached the mid-void inquiry stage after stabilizing her cultivation base at the 3rd level of the void inquiry stage. After chatting with everyone for a while, Night Sorrow returned to his residence. He had some matters to discuss with Wu Lingfei. Forever free of S fees equals look at, a small d say *g. While Night Sorrow was drinking tea in his mansion, Wu Lingfei came and sat across from Night Sorrow. You've made good progress, but you still need to rest. Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. It's the same for Auntie Fei. Don't work too hard. Right now, the Eastern Xian region is as stable as Mount Tai. With Senior Long Xianqing around, we will be able to withstand any storm. Night Sorrow said. Wu Lingfei smiled at Night Sorrow. It had been many years since someone cared for her, and she enjoyed it. Yi Shang then asked if there was a way to inform him immediately if he was away for a while and something happened here. Following this, Wu Ling concubine told Night Sorrow that he could just make a communication crystal. As long as his spirit power entered a liquid state, he would be able to do this. After explaining, Wu Lingfei looked at Yi Shang. You're going out. Where are you going? Auntie Fei, I plan to go to the Supreme River space again. Last time, I didn't investigate it carefully enough. As an ancient battlefield, that place shouldn't be simple. Love go little say Kunite Sorrow said. But it's still very dangerous for you to go there. Wu Lingfei thought for a while and said. Auntie Fei, I actually have a hunch that the Netherworld world will declare war on the 9 regions sooner or later. Since there aren't many intelligent Netherworld beasts in the Supreme River space, I'll try to go there again before they completely occupy it and investigate it. There were many saints in the ancient times. If one of them died and left a sacred treasure there, it would be best if we can get it. Night Sorrow told her his thoughts. Wu Lingfei thought for a while and nodded. You have the time and space pagoda. In terms of safety, unless you encounter a saint, there shouldn't be a problem. Go there. Don't fight. Just look for opportunities. Even though she was worried, she did not stop him. In the past, Night Sorrow, who was at the Void Inquiry stage, managed to come back alive from the Supreme River space. Now, Night Sorrow was at the peak of the 3rd level of the Venerable Realm. His body cultivation had also improved greatly. His strength was also on a completely different level from before. As for whether he could enter the Supreme River space, Wu Lingfei did not need to ask because Night Sorrow's attribute allowed him to ignore the suppression of other spaces. Next, under Wu Lingfei's guidance, Night Sorrow made 3 messaging crystals. He gave one to Wu Lingfei, one to Yang Lei and the others, and the last one to Yi Linglan. Looking at Night Sorrow, Wu Lingfei felt a little reluctant. You can use the Golden Phoenix flexible armor as you wish. It won't affect me at all. Don't worry about me, Auntie Faye. I'll rest for 2 days before leaving. You don't have to cultivate during these 2 days. You can also relax for 2 days. Night Sorrow said with a smile. In the next 2 days, Night Sorrow had a good rest. After knowing Night Sorrow's decision, the Sikong Chuyu trio did not object. They just reminded Night Sorrow to be careful. Night Sorrow also gave the messaging crystal to Aoi. Among the 3 women, Aoi was the calmest. After resting for 2 days, it was time to leave. Night Sorrow gave the last messaging crystal to Yiling Lan. Night Sorrow left Little Kong to cultivate by the lake. This time, he had to endure the pressure, and it was inconvenient for Tianyu, who had entered the sovereign realm. Although Tianyu wanted to follow Night Sorrow, he still listened to Night Sorrow's decision. Then, the group sent Night Sorrow to the teleportation array. Night Sorrow, be careful when you enter. If there's a problem with the seal, fix it. Wu Lingfei said. She did not want the nether beasts to rush out and cause trouble. Then, Night Sorrow sat on the teleportation array and left the city in the sky. This Golden Phoenix really cares about you. She said to Night Sorrow. Of course, Auntie Faye has always treated me like family. Night Sorrow and she communicated. With the teleportation array, Night Sorrow did not need to spend much effort on his journey. He went straight to the Medicine Valley. After thinking about it, Night Sorrow did not want the people of Medicine Valley to worry about him. He flew directly to the cliff where the space of Supreme River was. Then, Night Sorrow sent she out of the pagoda of time and space. He knew that it was the same whether she was in the pagoda of time and space because the laws of the world and space would detect it. Just like when he went to the void dimension, no one was allowed to bring flying mounts above the 4th level. This is the Medicine Valley, where the entrance to Supreme River is, Night Sorrow said. Golden Phoenix has a great temperament. With Dongxuan's origin in her body, her future achievements will surpass Xie Lanjun and the others. Yinshi's mind was still filled with Wu Lingfei, so she did not pay much attention to Night Sorrow's words. The laws of this space are very complete. I don't know if it will work if I bring you in, Night Sorrow said. Wu Lingfei had tested its strength the last time and knew that the spatial passage of Supreme River was very suppressive. This was also the reason why she did not follow Night Sorrow into the Death Dimension when Night Sorrow brought her into the Death Dimension. Now, it was also because Night Sorrow's cultivation base had improved tremendously that he dared to bring Yinshi along. Then, both of them began to fly downwards. Night Sorrow and Yinshi were extremely fast and soon reached the bottom of the cliff. Come here. I hope my protective shield can melt the seal and let the energy enter directly. If the seal is broken, I will have to repair it, Night Sorrow said to Yinshi. Yinshi nodded and stood beside Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow took a deep breath and propped up his protective shield before walking towards the spatial passage. The seal's energy blocked Night Sorrow's advance. However, Night Sorrow then performed a spatial rend and cut open the seal's energy without destroying the seal's foundation. He then charged forward and brought Yinshi through the seal to the entrance of the spatial passage. Night Moon's spatial rend is indeed powerful, Yinshi, who was holding Night Sorrow's left arm, said emotionally. Chapter 758. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Okay, my speed is not something an ordinary saint can contend with. If we can't handle it, we'll run first. There's no need to retreat, Yinshi said. What saint? Nothing much and you're planning to run. Night Sorrow looked at Yinshi with disdain. So what if I'm a saint? If I can't win, I'll run. Am I waiting for death? Saints are also cultivators. Their battle analysis and handling are no different from ordinary cultivators. She looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Okay. Come closer to me. This way, my protective shield can be compressed and more condensed," Night Sorrow said to She did not stand on ceremony. She directly leaned in front of Night Sorrow and hugged Night Sorrow's waist with both hands. Night Sorrow compressed his protective shield and then cut forward. As Night Sorrow's protective shield was cut, his body began to move forward. The energy in the spatial passage pressed down on Night Sorrow, causing his protective shield to shake a little. She also focused and was ready to attack at any time. Firstly, it was to fight outside. Secondly, if Night Sorrow could not withstand it, she would use the power of law to protect the two of them. Even if they entered the spatial turbulence, they would not be crushed by the pressure in the spatial passage. In 2 breaths of time, Night Sorrow rushed out of the spatial passage. Once out of the spatial passage, Night Sorrow began to cut left and right to dodge. There are no saint-level nether beasts here. Protect yourself and let me kill them. She checked and said to Night Sorrow. Then, Night Sorrow withdrew his protective shield and let She out. She could also rush out, but breaking through Night Sorrow's protective shield would consume a lot of Night Sorrow's vital energy. She rushed out and began to kill the nether beasts. Without saint-level nether beasts, there was no pressure on her. It was a complete one-sided slaughter. Night Sorrow also joined the battle. Nether beasts that were not at the late stage of the venerable realm were no threat to him. The battle ended in 15 minutes. Almost none of the nether beasts managed to escape. They were all killed by She and Night Sorrow. Collect the crystal cores. These are the pinnacle of the death attribute, nether energy crystal cores. They're quite valuable. Love go little say ko, Night Sorrow said to She, and the two of them began to collect the crystal nuclei. After cleaning up the battlefield, Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and threw it to She. Then, he opened another jar for himself. She only drank a little and then put it away. Night Sorrow said after drinking a few mouthfuls of wine, "Last time, I was only scouting in secret. My main goal was to find the spatial passageway. This time, the two of us will search in detail." It's impossible that no experts have fallen in the primordial battlefield. If we're lucky, we might be able to find something. She looked at Night Sorrow and said, "This depends on luck and opportunity. If there's a holy treasure longsword, can you give it to me?" Night Sorrow asked, "What's the level of the weapon you're using now? Is it not a holy treasure?" She's explanation gave Night Sorrow some information. The holy treasures of the 9 zones world were extremely rare now. Even if there were, they had to be nurtured by themselves. Most of the saints also used spirit weapons. However, because of the protection of the power of rules, the spirit weapons would not break. Xiao Longyuan's combat strength was strong because her weapon was a half-step holy treasure. It was between a supreme-grade spirit weapon and a holy treasure. Night Sorrow understood that it was indeed very difficult for a holy treasure to appear. It was very difficult to nurture it. It had a lot to do with the attribute, compatibility, and so on. After resting for a while, Night Sorrow and She began to move forward. This time, it was different from the last time Night Sorrow had come in alone. Last time, Night Sorrow had avoided the nether beasts. This time, he specifically chased after the nether beasts and killed them. Let's see how lucky I am this time. If I can get a saint-tier weapon that is compatible with your attributes, I can give it to you. But if it's not compatible with your attributes, don't even think about it. I still have 3 fiancés and my Aunt Faye, Yishan said. Okay, you can arrange it as you see fit, she said. Then, the two continued to move forward, killing as they moved forward. Night Sorrow felt that the 9 zones world and the nether world would fight sooner or later. The supreme river space and the nether world had the same attribute. Therefore, killing the nether beasts here was equivalent to reducing the strength of the nether world in advance. Love go little say W. Chu Yin she agreed with Night Sorrow's opinion. Even if she did not agree, she had to agree with Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow's opinion also made Yin she understand that Night Sorrow was a big-hearted person. He did not have any selfish thoughts. This was because most people who came in here wanted to benefit themselves. When the two were tired, they would rest in the space-time pagoda. Seeing that Night Sorrow had to work hard to cultivate for a while every time he recovered, Yin she was very impressed. She knew that at Night Sorrow's age, it was very rare to have such a temperament. After another round of cultivation, Yishang stood up and stretched his arms. The bones in his body emitted crackling sounds. You don't have to work so hard, right? You have no opponents in the Nine Zones world, Yin she said to Night Sorrow as she looked at him. This time, we will stop for a few days. I will refine the desolate stone. Night Sorrow planned to cultivate his attributes to saturation. When the power of desolates was saturated, he could use the power of desolates to strengthen his body again. He believed that at that time, his body-tempering cultivation would far surpass Wang Wudao's desolate sword physique. Yin she asked when she saw Yishang take out a desolate stone that was larger and of higher quality than the one she had given him. Night Sorrow sighed and told her about the Golden Growler's corpse. He also told her about the Golden Growler's indestructible soul. If the body is indestructible, the soul is indestructible. This is beyond the limit of lifespan. For a corpse from 10,000 years ago to have such a situation, the situation is indeed complicated. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yin she's expression changed. This matter was beyond her imagination. Ignoring the astonished Yin she, Night Sorrow began to meditate and cultivate. He knew that there were some things that Yin she needed time to digest. After sorting out his emotions, he looked at Night Sorrow who was cultivating. Yin she had eaten the dragon spirit pill and was also cultivating. She was also anxious to recover her strength because this was a chaotic world. YC.Q original chapter * on WN. This time, Night Sorrow went into seclusion for half a month and only managed to refine half of the desolate stone. Night Sorrow did not continue refining because the power of desolates in the desolate stone was very rich. Furthermore, the desolate stone contained pure energy. If he continued to refine it, his foundation would be unstable. Night Sorrow stopped cultivating. Yin she, who was meditating, also stood up and went to make tea. You've been cultivating for half a month. You're too persistent. Yin she said. Our foundation is a bit unstable. Let's continue fighting later and settle down, Night Sorrow said. Whether our foundation is stable or not is very important. Shall we continue? Yin she asked. She also needed to use battles to increase her cultivation. Yin she was also under pressure because when Night Moon returned from the dynasty, she had to defeat the 7-star saint. The 7-star saint was a 5-star saint, so she had to work hard to recover. Chapter 759. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. You're right. There's one more thing. I've successfully condensed the wind essence body and it contains a lot of yang energy. It can also help you with your cultivation, Yin she said. Okay, let's talk about this later. Night Sorrow's soul power wrapped around Yin she and they left the time-space pagoda. Now, the two of them were not worried about encountering opponents that they could not contend against. Night Sorrow had a holy treasure in his hand and Yin she had the cultivation of a saint. Her speed was also extremely fast. In Yin she's words, even if she could not win, she could still run away. She did not harm herself by using the wind essence escape technique. Without any worries, Night Sorrow and Yin Shi had nothing to be afraid of. They just charged forward. Night Sorrow used the two weapons alternately. The battle intensity was not high. He used the space-splitting spear to increase his compatibility. When the battle was intense, he used the reincarnation spear. Seeing Night Sorrow doing this, Yin Shi, who was puzzled, asked Night Sorrow why he did this. She thought about what Night Sorrow told her about cultivating the soul doppelganger. You've already reached this step. You're indeed powerful. I've thought about cultivating the soul doppelganger in the past, but I don't have a top-notch medium. It's too late to cultivate it now. Love go little say, Chuyin, she said. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and did not mention that he still had the Phantom Dao stone. This was because Yin Shi was not suitable to cultivate the soul doppelganger now. He could not lose his strength. The 7-star saint was still waiting to be dealt with. During the day, they would advance and kill. At night, the two of them would kill ordinary small demonic beasts and drink some wine. Then, they would enter the time-space pagoda to rest and cultivate. After a few days, Night Sorrow collected a lot of alchemy materials and ores. However, he still did not find any traces of an expert's battle. Night Sorrow was not discouraged. He believed that he would gain something. It was impossible that there were no remnants in an ancient battlefield. Yin Shi admired Night Sorrow's steadiness, because even if he didn't discover it, Night Sorrow was not anxious at all. After setting up camp once more, Night Sorrow intended to charge into the 4th rank of the Exalt realm. He'd been forcefully suppressing it during this period of time, and he felt that there weren't any problems with the condensation and control of his true energy. After taking a look at Yin Shi, Night Sorrow greeted Shao Kong and told Yin Shi that he was going into seclusion. Although he was in the same level as Yin Shi in the Spatial Treasure Pagoda, Night Sorrow was not worried about his safety. First of all, Yin Shi would not dare to attack him. As long as the soul energy he left in the Silver Shi Divine Pearl exploded, Yin Shi would die. Other than this factor, Night Sorrow still had Shao Kong as insurance. As long as Yin Shi made any strange movements, Shao Kong would bring her to another level. Within the Space-Time Treasure Pagoda, Shao Kong was the master. After spending a day and a night, Night Sorrow raised his true energy to the 4th rank of the Exalt realm. His true energy had become much more vigorous. This was a small leap from the beginner Exalt realm to the intermediate Exalt realm. Night Sorrow opened his eyes and took a look at Yin Shi. He then continued to meditate and stabilize his cultivation. After stabilizing his cultivation for 6 hours, Night Sorrow stood up and said, "Make a pot of tea." Okay. You're probably the only one in the 9 regions and 18 prefectures to use a saint as a maid. Yin Shi muttered and began to make tea. You're also the only one in the 9 regions and 18 prefectures to kidnap a venerable. By the way, why didn't you make a move when I was in seclusion? Night Sorrow asked. Was there a need? If you died, I wouldn't be able to live either, right? I believe that you would have a backup plan. Moreover, you're pretty good to me. Yin Shi said. Night Sorrow smiled and sat down at the tea table to drink tea. He was very satisfied with Yin Shi's attitude. When Yin Shi spoke, her soul didn't fluctuate at all. It was obvious that she was telling the truth. After drinking tea, Night Sorrow relaxed his emotions. Yin Shi did the same. She had been working hard to cultivate during this period. Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi and thought for a moment. How many of the 20 dragon spirit pills do you have left? If you need them, I'll give them to you. I've recovered 1 rank, so 3 or 4 pills won't be enough. I still have 7. Yin Shi took out the bottle of dragon spirit pills. You're quite sincere. However, since your foundation is stable, you can eat as much as you want. I can still afford to raise you. Here's another 10. Night Sorrow took out another 10 dragon spirit pills. You're really rich. I feel like I'm a prodigal when I eat like this, she said. Night Sorrow shook his head and didn't say anything. In fact, it was a waste for to eat like this. However, Night Sorrow still had a lot of dragon spirit pills and materials, so he wasn't worried that the god-slaying squad wouldn't have enough. Do you need me to help you with your cultivation? She asked. No need. I won't take advantage of a woman. Besides, you don't have to be so nice to me, right? You should hate me, Night Sorrow said. Would you believe me if I said that I've thought it through? The destruction of my cultivation is my own fault. I can't blame anyone else. As for being nice to you, it's actually just flattery. I'm trying my best to live a better life, said She wasn't just saying this to Yishang, but also to herself. I don't need any flattery. As long as you're well, I won't do anything to you. It's not easy to live, Night Sorrow said with some emotion. Then, the two left the space-time pagoda and continued forward. After 2 days, Night Sorrow saw some changes in the terrain. It wasn't naturally formed. There was a deep trench in the ground. This is a sword mark. Night Sorrow looked down and said. She also looked down. It can't be. It contains wind attribute energy. To be able to fight here and leave such a deep sword mark, it must be an expert. Let's continue to investigate, Night Sorrow said. It was true that they found sword marks and traces of battle, but it was hard to determine where the battlefield was. Because experts were extremely fast, they could travel hundreds of miles in 2 flashes. If one was chasing and the other was escaping, it was hard to say how far the distance would be. I hope it's a sage with a sage treasure. Let's take a closer look. She was also interested. Then, the two of them investigated nearby, following the traces of battle. They killed any nether beasts that blocked their way. Then, the two of them saw traces of sword chi. After investigating, they found that they were of the water attribute. Forever Ogyo watch small 8 for free, said, Night Sorrow, as long as one of them leaves behind a sacred weapon, then my weapon will be secured, she said excitedly. Selfish. Can't you think of leaving behind better treasures such as cultivation methods? Night Sorrow glared at She. For me, a sacred level sword is the most useful, but you're right, she said. Cultivation methods are the best. My current cultivation method can only be cultivated to the saint realm. Cultivation methods mean inheritance, which can increase the strength of the 9 zones. Night Sorrow said. Although Long Xianqing said that he would look for a cultivation technique for him, there might not be any suitable one for him. Besides, if he could obtain an additional cultivation technique, it would bring benefits to many people. She stopped talking because she felt that her perspective on the overall situation was not as good as Night Sorrow's. If she continued talking, it would make her seem inferior. According to the direction of the sword chi and the attack, the two of them continued to fumble their way forward. Then, the two of them saw a severed mountain range. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.